Chapter 1261. The protective barrier disappears. Everyone leave Mercenary City immediately. A clear voice rang out from afar. It originated from a Heaven Saint Master who was in the city, and he yelled extremely loudly. His voice basically reached all of the city. All the people in the city returned to their senses with that. They all looked at the rapidly expanding cracks in the ground. No one dared to stay any longer in the city, all moving away. All of them moved as quickly as they could. Ever since the city had been founded, it had always been peaceful. Yet such a violent earthquake had actually occurred now. This was far too abnormal. Almost everyone sensed that some great change was about to happen. Swish! With the whistling of wind, a Heaven Saint Master flew through the air coated by barely visible, azure-colored, wind-attributed saint force. He shot through the air as an azure streak of light, quickly flying to the outskirts. My God, that guy's crazy. He's actually flying in Mercenary City. Isn't he afraid of the punishment from the barrier? Even if he's fleeing for his life, there's no need to do that. Doesn't he know that flight is forbidden in the city? Flight is an ability that only the upper echelon of Mercenary City can enjoy, and none of them are weaker than saint rulers. Not only is this person a Heaven Saint Master, he's not a member of Mercenary City either. He's done for. That Heaven Saint Master is going to be in trouble. Let's see just what punishment he suffers next. Many people who fled sneered inside as they watched the Heaven Saint Master fly. Many of them were prepared to see the outcome of the Heaven Saint Master soon. Among the people who fled, there were many Heaven Saint Master, but all of them had chosen to run on the ground. There was no one bold enough to fly in the city. However, the people who were ready for a good show kept waiting. But not only did the flying Heaven Saint Master escape without any of the imagined punishments, he even flew out of the city in an extremely short amount of time. Chapter 1263. This Heaven Saint Master hasn't suffered any punishment existed on the other side of the seal. Are the rumors false? Mercenary City. No, it was so impossible for the rumors to be false. Continent, 10 years ago, the personally witnessed the Heaven Saint and the Wasteland Continent were combined. They would not even fill half of all created by the barrier's energy in the sky. The energy of the world was that Heaven extremely abundant as well. Some important member far more abundant than on the Tianyuan continent. Is that why there was a special exception? And most importantly, a black-robed old man possessed origin energy. He was also a Heaven Saint from this world for countless years. But he dared not to fly. It was also rich in resources, quickly along the ground, so the entire place seemed perfect. Everyone looked. Probably the only downside of the city has vanished. Was that the sun of that world was blood red. An alarmed cry rang out from afar. Scarlet color of human everyone raised their heads radiating after endless light. But when they saw the entire place blood red, all of their mouths hung adding a malevolent feeling flooded the entire world. Saint Emperor. There were not many saints on the realm that had always enveloped carefully with the entire world in perspective. If they were sunless that 5 seconds, it had always remained hidden even those of the origin realm died throughout history without any depths of the mountain. They were even devoured the lives of the Tianyuan continent. This was an extremely horrible, which was why the mountain god almost all of them couldn't reach. There was only 9 changes were about to happen. City. Saint Kings could be seen they thought about that. The number had reached at this very moment. Without the large number of people had gathered Heaven Saint all greatest mountain fearless Tianyuan continent. There was over 500 streams of light that spanned at the same time several dozen odd round covered the center of all the center of the city. It was known as the world's mountain as they glanced just in the vanished barrier. This was an image of trembling ground and terrifying ruled the world. What's happening to our mercenary countless powerful why has the protective barrier suddenly vanished? Many imperial palace of various blood suddenly occurred. It was the symbol of absolute Saint Emperors could only move around on the stared at the huge cracks and palm wide. They were all Saint Emperors. They all knew that the piece of earth that the without any exaggeration, any single one of them wall enough to terrify the grave protector clan rock hard. If the general region was not even the most terrifying, however, everything all of them currently held the ground had now been entered their silent ring stage, where a huge mountain were left at all. At the very front of the mountain were over 40 pillars that contacting a grand elder and everyone stood in a single line. It was shrouded. They also waited in red mist. Although they were part of the radiation on the mountain, was even greater than the presence of Saint
All
Emperors.
the space halfway up their mountains were equivalent,
so
so
they
they
could
could
do
do
nothing about
it
the
would
sudden
twist
violence of their
violently
mean
the
strikes
emperors
of various
Saint
sizes
rulers
would form from
all
time
the
to
Saint
time.
kings remained
These
gathered
had
in
also
the
come
ancient
as Saint Emperors
ranges
where
and had
fans of
reached
the
the
mountain
origin
itself
realm.
become a Saint Emperor,
And 8 of them were
and they
not
all
only
congratulated
silently
him,
vanished
but without any
without even leaving
regard
all of
behind
the
a
origin
realm
realm
experts
experts
hid
was
their becoming
extremely
Saint
terrifying.
Emperor, standing there
The
like
several
statues
Saint
huge
kings
from
they all held their breath
stepping into
as
the
they stared at the man
and
smiled
more
more
brightly
brightly
than anyone
Quite a
else.
few of them known
It
as
was
the
extremely
admiration
significant
and
for
fear through their
mercenary
city.
gazes. For
He was a
Tianjin,
black-robed and tall
to become
man.
a Saint King,
He stood there
but at this
silently
moment,
with his back to
the
everyone,
Grand Elder's face
giving
suddenly
off a
changed
feeling
in
that
a
he was
drastic
indomitable.
way.
He had
As if
received
he
a
was the
message
heavens,
through a secret
and he
technique
ruled the
for
lives of
mercenary
everyone
city,
else.
and learned
Just
of the
looking
great
at him
changes.
felt like he had
the
fused
Grand
with
Elder's
the world.
complexion
Yet
immediately
there was
became
also the
extremely
illusion
horrible.
that he stood
He
above the
turned to
world.
the Saint Kings
By his
beside
side
him and
hovered a
said,
heavy,
"Something
dark
bad
sword made of
happened."
metal.
Mercenary
The metal
city
shone
has
with a dark
undergone an
glimmer
upheaving
and
change.
radiated with a bright
Elders
light.
immediately
Although it
head
was
back to the
motionless,
city as soon
the
as
great
possible.
aura from the weapon
We cannot
actually
waste
made
any
the
time
8
at all.
returnance experts
All right,
behind
we'll
him
hurry
shiver
back
inside.
immediately.
A
The
pitch-black
Saint
tunnel
Kings
stood
stood
1,000
city.
meters in front
Could see
of the
how severe
black-robed
the
man.
situation
The space
was
in their
from how
pulse
the Grand
distorted
Elder
in violent
had lost his
spasms.
composure.
Spirit
Without
King,
any hesitation,
will we be able to break
they
through the
immediately
seal to the other
constructed
side
a
of the
space
time?
gate and
A
hurried back.
returnance expert
The
asked
Grand
at this
Elder did
moment.
not return with them. The man
With a
standing
flash,
at the very
he arrived
front
by
was the
Tianjin's
supreme
side
ruler
and said
of the
through a
sacred
communication
spirit hall.
technique.
He was the
Great
one who
Elder,
held supreme
I've just
power
received
over
a
this
message
world,
from
the
Mercenary
Spirit
City.
King.
The
The
Spirit
city is
King was a
undergoing
legendary
great changes.
person within the
The
world of
protective
Forsaken
barrier
Saints.
has vanished
He
while the
possessed the
entire
greatest
city is
talent and
violently
greatest
trembling.
comprehension
The
throughout
ground
all
has
of
cracked
history,
and the city is in
reaching
ruins.
reciprocity in
The
just
Grand
a mere
Elder
8
spoke
centuries.
extremely sternly.
He created powerful
If he had
moves
not been
himself.
certain that the
When
person
he had
who
first
sent him
set
the
a foot
message
in the
would not
reciprocity
lie,
realm,
he would be doubting
he
the
challenged
reality
the
of
3
the
other
matter right now.
reciprocity experts
This was
of the
because
world
this
of
was an
Forsaken
unprecedented
Saints.
event
The first
ever since
expert
the
was at
founding of the
mid-reciprocity.
city.
And was
Tianjin's
defeated in
expression
10
changed
moves
as well
by the Spirit
because
King,
of what the
who
Grand
had
Elder
just
had
reached
said.
reciprocity.
He could not help
The
but think
second
back
and
to
third
the matter
experts were at
Jian
mid
had
and late
mentioned before,
reciprocity respectively,
about how the tunnel to
but
the
after
world
an
of
intense
Forsaken Saints
4-hour
had been
fight with the
sealed
early
deep underneath the
reciprocity
city,
Spirit King,
and how an
they both
earthquake had
died to
already
his blade.
occurred back when
The
he was
3
Grand
reciprocity
Elder.
experts
However,
were originally
it
the
had
rulers
occurred
of
and
the
ended
Sacred
very
Spirit
quickly,
Hall,
and did
they were
not
known
cause
as the
too
3
great
great
of a
commotion.
commotion.
Has the
But
seal
after they
beneath
were all
Mercenary
slain by
City
the
been
black-robed
broken,
man,
Tianjin
he himself
suddenly
became
thought of
the
this
Spirit
matter,
King,
and his
he
heart
became the
immediately
Spirit King
sank.
of a new
He
generation,
heavily replied,
and the only
Grand
Spirit
Elder,
King of the world
let's
of
return to
Forsaken
the city
Saints.
immediately.
Although the new Spirit
Before he
King
had
had
even
only
finished
reached
speaking,
reciprocity recently,
Tianjin began
and
to
was still
construct
at
the
early
space
reciprocity.
gate. Quickly
All the
stepping
origin
through it
realm
as he pulled the
experts in
Grand
the world
Elder
believed
along.
he possessed the
Everyone,
power to
please
fight the
gather
weakest
in
person
person
who
who
had
had
attained
attained
godhood.
godhood.
The
I have
gap
some
between
important
the origin
matters to
realm
discuss
and
with you
godhood
all.
was as large
Just as
as
the
a
space
chasm.
gate was
It
about
was
to
not
close,
even comparable to the gap
Tianjin's
between
voice rang
Saint
out,
King and Saint
Emperor.
landing in all the ears
But rather
of the
the
Saint
gap
Kings
between
present.
the origin realm
All of them
and
looked at
sainthood
each other.
would be more
They had been
comparable.
stunned by the
current
abnormal
Spirit
actions
King
of the
possessed
Saint
the power
Kings
to
from
fight an
Mercenary
expert
City, who had
Tianjin
attained godhood at early
and the Saint
reciprocity.
Kings of Mercenary
Even
City
if it was only
have
the
left in
weakest
such a
expert
hurry
at godhood,
has something
it was
happened to the
shocking
city.
enough. The
A
person
Saint
who
King
came
from
to
an
our
ancient
world and
clan
cast
asked
down
in
this
doubt.
seal is indeed
Mercenary
very strong.
City has always
No
been
wonder
guarded
none
by
of
the
our
protective
origin realm
barrier
experts were
that
his
even
opponent.
Saint Emperors
The
cannot
seal he had
smash
cast
through.
down between
In
the
terms
two
of
worlds
defenses,
can only be
even the
destroyed by
protector
someone at
clans
godhood.
cannot match up
I
against
easily
them.
destroyed the
It would
seal
be
in our
slightly
world
reasonable
before
if he
probably
said that
because
something
there was
had
no one
happened to the
controlling
protector
it.
clans.
But there's an
But it's
origin
an
realm
absolute
expert
joke
on the
if you're
other
talking
side
about
supporting the
Mercenary
seal
City.
right now. A
So it
dignified
won't be
old man in
destroyed
golden
easily,
dragon robes
said the
chuckled.
Spirit King.
He was the
He spoke in an
ancestral emperor
extremely
of the
nonchalant
Felicity
tone,
Empire,
but
and
his
was
voice
extremely
carried a certain
powerful.
femininity.
He was at the peak
Although
of
he
the
was a
8th
man,
heavenly layer,
his voice was
and about to
extremely
reach the
pleasant.
9th.
Spirit
Quite a
King
few
will it
people
fail
from the
again this
Protector
time?
clans
An
immediately
enchanting
became
woman who seemed to
displeased
be
by
in
what
her
the
20s
ancestral
ancestral
gently
emperor
asked.
had said.
Her voice was
But none
filled
of them
with charm,
dared to say anything
as if
in
it could
response.
suck away the souls
This
of
was
people.
because the
She
ancestral
was one of the
emperor
8
was
experts
correct.
at returnance.
In terms of defensive
Although there's
measures,
an origin realm
the protector
expert
clans
supporting
were
the
not
seal
on
on
the
the
same
other
level
side.
as mercenary
I am
city.
confident I can
When they
get through
faced
the
the
sneak
sneak
attacks
attacks
from
from
the
the
experts
experts
of
of
the
the 100
Maintaining
races,
the seal will
they were not
require
even
a
able
vast
to
amount
stop
of
a small
energy.
group of Saint Kings with just the
Let me
strength
waste
of a
that
single
origin realm
protector
expert's
clan.
energy first.
On
And
the
once
other
they're
hand,
running low,
Mercenary
I'll
City
use my
had
seal
managed to
breaking
block
and
the
break through
attacks
this
from
seal,
all the
said
invaders
the
with
Spirit
just a
King
barrier.
nonchalantly.
Even the
At this moment,
simultaneous
the
attacks
space
from
in the
several
tunnel stabilized
stabilized
again.
artifacts could not
The
even
space had
shake
been
the barrier,
disrupted by his
which was
full-powered
more than
attack
enough
from
to see
earlier.
how
A
terrifyingly tough the
resplendent
barrier
gleam of
was.
light immediately
Everyone,
flashed through the
let's
Spirit
gather in
King's
Mercenary
eyes when he
City
saw the
since great
space
elder Tian
restabilize.
Jin has invited
The
us.
dark sword
The
floating beside
ancestral
him
emperor added
immediately
at the
erupted
end.
with a
He
dazzling
left with
silver
the two
light,
other Saint
as an
Kings from the
extremely
Felicity
powerful sword
Empire,
intent
heading to
permeated the
Mercenary
surroundings.
City. Under the contamination of the powerful
Chapter
sword intent,
1262,
the violent
gathering
wind,
at Mercenary
the air,
City,
and even
It's
the
not like we
abundant
have
energy
anything
of the
better
world
to
in the
do.
surroundings.
Let's check out Mercenary City
invisible sword
and see
chi.
just what's happened
Swish.
that's caused
The
these
dark metal
elders to
sword
leave
was
in such a
surrounded by a
hurry.
coat of powerful
Plus,
silver
this
light.
is a personal
As it
invitation
vanished
from
into
the
the
great
tunnel
elder
in front of
them,
them,
as
everyone
a white
needs
streak
to
of
respect
light.
him.
Don't you think so? A Saint King from the Patian sect of the
Chapter
10 Protector
1264
clans said
The seal
aloud
breaks
as he
a
glanced
resplendent
at the
gleam of
independent
light
Saint
immediately
Kings around
flashed
him.
through the Spirit
Even
King's
before they
eyes.
had a Saint
When he saw the
Emperor,
space
Mercenary
restabilize,
City vaguely
the dark
stood
sword
supreme
floating
in regard
beside
to
him
the Protector
immediately
clans.
erupted with a
Now that
dazzling
they had a
silver
Saint
light.
Emperor,
As
they were incomparable
incomparable
to the sword
past.
intent
So
permeated
even the
surroundings.
Protector clans needed
Under
to
the
treat
contamination
Mercenary
of the
City
powerful
politely.
sword intent.
Haha, sure.
The violent
Great
wind,
Elder Tian
the
Jian
air,
used to be
and
a
even the
well-respected
abundant
person
energy of the
on
world in the
Tianyuan
surroundings
continent,
became strands
let
of
alone
invisible
now.
sword chi.
I don't think any of us
Swish.
present
The
will
dark
turn
metal
down
sword
Great
was
Elder
surrounded by a
Tianjian's
coat of
invitation.
powerful silver
And
light.
since he said
As
he
it
had
vanished
something
into the
important to
tunnel in
discuss
front
before
of them,
he left,
as a white
it
streak
must
of
be
light.
something
The
significant.
tunnel between the
After
world of
all,
forsaken
I
saints
do
and
trust that
Mercenary
he's not
City
someone who
was
likes to
filled
tell
with
lies.
extremely
You
violent
never
streaks
know.
of energy.
The important matter
causing
that
the
Great
space
Elder
in it to
Tianjian
become extremely
might be wanting
unstable.
to speak to us
The
about
entire
might
tunnel
just
would
be his
distort from
experience
time
and
to
knowledge
time
of
At
becoming
this
a
moment,
Saint Emperor.
a dazzling
A
streak
red-faced
of white
old
light
man
flashed
laughed
through the
aloud.
tunnel.
He was
moving
one of the great
extremely
elders
quick.
from the Heavens
This was the
Incense
Spirit
School.
King's dark
He
metal
also
sword.
glanced at all
The
the
sword
independent
seemed completely
cultivators when he
ordinary
said that,
and was not
clearly
eye-catching in
directing
any
what he had
particular
said
way.
at them.
But
On
it
the
possessed great
Tianyuan
power.
continent,
The strength of the
regardless
metal
of the
sword
Protector
greatly
clans,
surpassed the
ancient
ancient armaments
clans,
on the
or the three
Tianyuan
great
continent.
empires.
And
They
even
all
the
would never
Emperor
turn down
of
an
the 10
invitation
Protector
from
clans
Mercenary
could
City.
not compare to
After
it.
all,
The
they
rather
were people
unstable
with large
space would begin to
organizations
ripple
behind
violently
them,
wherever
and
the
none of
sword
them
passed
wanted
by.
to offend
But
Mercenary
it was
City,
extremely tough,
which basically
so it did
reigned
not
supreme.
shatter.
However,
on the other side,
this
the
was
web-like
different for
seal
independent
covered the entrance of the
cultivators who
tunnel.
belonged to
The
no
metal sword
organization
passed through the
and were
spatial
not
tunnel
bound or
with an
restricted by
unstoppable
anything.
force.
They would hide
was
all
coated
year
by a
round in
radiant
desolate
glow of
regions
silver
to
light,
cultivate.
striking
Among
the seal
them,
viciously.
there were quite a
Boom.
few prideful
With a
and
deafening
odd-mannered
boom,
people
the
who
sword
did not
struck
fear
the center of
Mercenary
the
City.
seal.
Many
And the
people
great
present
force turned the
understood that the
formation
two
into
Saint
a conical
Kings had
shape.
stepped forward
Then,
to
the
express
sword
their
erupted
stance on
radiantly,
Mercenary City,
producing rain-like
through the
droplets
words they
of
had
energy
just
that
spoken.
attacked the seal.
Afterward,
violently
all the Saint
destroying
Kings
it.
from the 10
The seal
Protector
immediately
clans,
began to
the
violently
ancient clans,
flicker,
the three
and the
empires,
energy that maintained
and
it
so
was
on ripped
consumed
open
at an
space
extremely
gates and hurried
terrifying
away.
rate.
All of them
Xiaoling
headed to
immediately
Mercenary
became
City.
extremely nervous.
Soon afterward,
She placed
only
her
the
hands on
several
the seal
dozen
as origin
independent Saint
energy
Kings
was
were
rapidly
present.
channeled into
They
the
were
formation.
indeed rather unwilling
She tried
to follow
maintain
through
the
with
final seal.
Tianjian's invitation.
However,
They
the
were
seal
used
only
to living
managed to
freely
block the
and
Spirit
acting
King's
as they
attack
wished
with great
without
difficulty,
participating in
even
the
after
battles
being supported
between
by
any
Xiaoling's
large
organizations.
organizations.
Although
Even
the
if
seal was
Tianjian
powerful,
had said he had
it was
something
only enough
important
to repel the
discuss,
attacks of
many of
experts
them
in the
still
origin
believed
realm.
that it had nothing
Once
to
it
do with
encountered
them.
attacks at the level of godhood.
However,
Even if
after
it was
what
from
the
the
two
two
Saint
Saint Kings
godhood
from the
expert,
Patian sect
it would
in
break
Heaven's
for
Incense
sure.
School had said,
Although the Spirit King
many
was
of them
only in the
immediately
origin
changed
realm,
their minds.
he possessed
They
the
were
power
not
to
afraid
rival
of
the
the weakest
mercenary
expert
who had
city,
obtained godhood,
since it was a famed
so the seal
superpower,
could not be
and
maintained
would not hold a
before his
grudge
great
against them
strength.
over these small
If it were
matters.
not for Xiaoling's
What
support,
really changed their
the seal
minds
probably
was what
would
the
have
Saint
been
King
smashed
from the
through
Heaven's
long ago.
Incense School had said. Even though many of them understood that
Xiaoling could not
Tianjian
last much
would
longer
never
either,
pass on his
because
experience
the
and
energy
knowledge
she had
of
accumulated
becoming
over
a Saint
countless
Emperor
years
to them
had almost
just
been
the temptation
consumed.
of becoming
The
a
metal
Saint
sword
Emperor
was locked in a
was far
stalemate
too
with the
difficult
seal
for
for several
resist.
seconds.
Even
Before
though they
finally
knew it was
expending
impossible,
all the power it
they
had,
still grasped
and
at that
returning
tiny
to the
amount
world
of hope
of forsaken
As a
saints.
result,
The
Xiaoling
independent
became
Saint
relieved,
Kings hesitated
but when she
slightly
discovered
before
that all the
ripping
energy in
open
the
space
underground
gates as
space
well,
had been
heading to
consumed,
Mercenary
she
City,
immediately became
Tianjian,
terrified,
and the Saint
she
Kings
sobbed,
of Mercenary
"Oh
City
no,
had all
there's
returned
no more
to the
energy
city.
to keep up the
All
seal.
of them sternly
What do I
stared
do?
at the trembling
Master,
ground
where
with
are you?
extremely ugly
Come back quick.
expressions.
If you
The
don't
protective
return
barrier
now,
of the city
your
had
seal will be
vanished,
destroyed by
and
bad
even the
people.
terrifying
That
energy
bad
hidden
person
within
is
the
so
ground
strong.
had disappeared.
I can't beat him,
making the ground
Master,
become
come back
extremely
quick.
fragile. The now
Spirit
because
King
of the
stood
violent
unmoving
trembling,
at the highest
it had
point of the
already
world
cracked.
mountains.
From a
As
higher
if he was all
altitude,
that existed
the ground
in
of
that
the
world.
entire city
At this
seemed
moment,
like a huge
the
spider
metal
web.
sword that
The
had
structures
emerged
built
from
on
the
it were
spatial
ruined
tunnel,
or had collapsed,
as if the sword was
and the
conscious.
beautiful city had
It
ceased
flew
to
into the
exist.
Spirit King's
It
hand
was in a
without
disastrous
anyone's
state.
control.
At this
time,
moment, the Saint Kings from the
the
protector
Spirit King
clans,
spoke in heavy
the three
voice.
empires,
Suddenly,
and the ancient clans
a supreme
all arrived
presence
in
surged
mercenary
from him
city.
in all directions.
As soon as they had emerged from their
hovered
space
in the
gates,
air,
reaching an
became
altitude
stunned
of
by the
10
drastic
meters,
changes
as
to the
terrifying
city.
energy
Disbelief
filled all their
surroundings.
faces.
At that moment,
And they struggled
he
to
seemed to
return
have
to
become
their
a mighty
senses
spirit.
even after
He
quite a
gripped
while.
his sword as he stood
Finally,
there,
causing the
Saint
sky
King
to
from a
tremble.
Protector clan
The
managed
several
to
dozen
snap back to
Origin
his
realm
senses
experts
before
all
everyone
looked at
else.
him from behind
He
in
secretly
fear.
gasped
All
and
of
arrived
them could
beside
sense the
Tianjin.
incomparably
With his
vast
hands
pressure
clasped, he
radiating
asked,
from the Spirit
Great
King.
Elder Tianjin,
Even the 8
WW,
returnance experts
what
were
has
not
happened?
exceptions.
Why has
All of
Mercenary
them
City
felt that
suddenly
the Spirit
become
King
like
was
this?
invincible.
The Saint
Seal
King had
Breaker,
asked the question,
suddenly,
weighing on everyone's
the Spirit
mind.
King roared out
Immediately,
as the pure Origin energy.
all the people looked
Without
at
him surged
Tianjin.
into the metal sword.
Tianjin said nothing,
immediately causing
he
it
stared
to erupt
sternly
with
at the
an
ground beneath
unprecedented
him
brightness
as the light in his
and
eyes
causing it
flickered.
loudly resonate.
Boom. At this
Afterward,
moment,
the Spirit
another
King
heavy
stabbed out
sound
with a flash.
reverberated from deep
The strike
beneath Mercenary
possessed an
City.
indescribable
The ground began
profoundness.
to shake
With
even
that
more
single
as strands
strike,
of terrifying
the world
energy,
dulled while the air
enough
stopped
to make all
moving.
the Saint King
Time
shiver,
seemed to have halted,
began to leak from
and even
the
the
ground.
surrounding space
Even though it was
oscillated
just
with a
strands
ripple.
of weak energy
The Spirit
ripples,
King stabbed
they
the
had
metal sword
completely
at the
surpassed
tunnel with
the
a
level of
speed that
Saint
was difficult
Emperors.
to observe
What
with the naked
terrifying
eye.
energy!
Attacking
Just what
the
is
seal
beneath
on
the
the
ground?
other side again.
A Saint
When
King
the seal
from an
came in
ancient
contact
clan
with
asked
the
with
metal
a sheet-white
sword,
face.
an
He
extremely
could feel
profound
that he was
energy began to spread out.
as an ant
It
before
was
a
like
strand
poison.
of one ripple of this
As soon
energy,
as it came in
which
contact
made him
with the
shiver
seal,
inside.
the powerful
At this
seal
moment,
began to
an
dissolve at a
extremely
visible
powerful
rate.
ripple of energy
Xiaoling was
erupted from
surprised when
beneath
she
the
saw
city.
this. She poured everything
A
she had
3-meter
into
wide
the
hole
seal,
suddenly
but
appeared
no
on the
matter
cracked
how hard
ground.
she tried,
And soon afterward,
she could not slow down
for
the rate
figures
at which
quickly
the seal
floated out,
collapsed.
surrounded by
Boom.
an extremely
A few
powerful
seconds
energy.
later,
In
the
the
seal
end,
finally
they were
shattered
sent
with a
to
rumble,
Tianjin's side,
causing the entire
and the energy
underground
around them
space to
silently
violently
vanished.
tremble.
The four of them were Ming
stared
Dong,
blankly at the
Yang
broken
Ling,
seal while
Chang
her
Yang
face became
Zuyingkong,
extremely
and
pale.
Huang Tianba, who had all been cultivating
She was
beneath
filled
the
with
city.
fear as fat
All the
tears
Saint Kings
uncontrollably
stared at the
rolled
four of
down
them
her
in
cheeks,
surprise
as she
as
broke
if they
into
had just
tears.
seen a ghost.
She sobbed.
None of them,
It's done
apart from
for.
Tianjin,
It's all
had
over.
thought that
The
Saint
seal's been
rulers
broken,
and a heaven
seal's
Saint
been
master
broken.
would be hiding
Master,
in
where
the
are
depths
you?
of the city.
Come back. The seal's been broken.
Why
The
have you been
seal's been
hiding
broken.
beneath the city?
What do I do?
Speak. What
The
were you
moment
doing
the
down
seal
there?
shattered,
A
Mercenary
Saint King of
City
Mercenary
suffered the
City
most powerful
returned
jolt
to
as
his
well.
senses,
Whole
and
regions of
immediately
earth
roared
collapsed
at them
as the
with a
cracks,
glare, which
crisscrossed the
Tianjin
ground,
raised his hand
all
to stop the
expanded
expert
to the width of
who
a
wanted
meter.
to capture the
All
four
the
of them.
structures in the
He
city
stared
had
at them and
collapsed,
asked, including
do you know what's
Mo
happening
Tianyang
down there?
sculpture at the center.
Ming Dong,
All
Yang
the
Ling,
experts of
Chang
Mercenary
Yang
City,
Zuyingkong,
including
and
the
Huang
ones who
Tianba
had
were
hurried
all
over from
confused as
various
well.
places.
They had been cultivating
Watched the tragedy
all good and well
unfold with
underground,
sunken faces.
yet they were suddenly
At this
roused
moment,
by Xiaoling.
no one was able
Before
to
they
lighten
could
up,
understand what was
including
going
the
on,
Protector
they were
clans
suddenly
who were
sent
envious
above
of
Mercenary City
without
for
any clue
obtaining
as to what had happened.
This was
Great
because
Elder,
Tianjin
the four
had
of them
already
have
told
managed
all
to
the
get
Saint
beneath the
Kings
city
present
through
the
some unknown
information
method,
he had learned from
and who knows
Jianshen.
what they've done.
If it was any
I'm
other
thinking
time,
that the sudden
none of
changes
them
would
would
have
have believed
believed
such
such
an
an
unrealistic
unrealistic
matter.
matter.
Please
But the
look into
collapse
this,
of
great
Mercenary
Elder,
City
was
said
the
a
best
Saint King of
evidence
Mercenary
without a doubt.
City in a heavy
It
voice,
was no longer
as
up
he
to
glared
whether
at the
they
four of
believed
them
it
with
or not.
hostility evident
If the
in his
seal
eyes.
to the world of forsaken
Tianjin
saints
shook his
really
head.
had been destroyed,
This has nothing to
and
do
the
with them.
experts there
I
launched
may
an
know a
invasion.
little as to why these
How is
changes
the
have
Tianyuan
happened.
continent
What?
supposed to
The
repel
Great
them with
Elder
their
knows
puny
the reason.
strength?
This was
Another
definitely
Saint
a
King
calamity
stared
for
at
the
Tianjin in
Tianyuan
surprise.
continent.
At
That
this
might
moment,
even affect the
another
entire
several
world.
dozen Saint
The
Kings
dark,
appeared.
metal
The
sword returned
independent
to the
Saint
Spirit
Kings
Kings
had all
side again
arrived,
back in the
and
world
all
of
became
forsaken
stunned
saints.
by the ruined city.
It hovered
All
quietly
of them
by his
stared
side
at it blankly
as the
with
Spirit
shock
King
plastered
stared at the
across their
spatial
faces.
tunnel in front of him.
Tianjin
He
gazed
finally
at the
showed a
people of
smile
the
of
Protector
delight
clans and
Spirit
asked in a
King,
heavy voice,
may I ask if the seal
"Everyone,
on the other side has
do
been
you
destroyed?
still remember the matter
The
that I had
alluring
discussed with you when I invited you to
asked.
Mercenary City
The Spirit
several
King
years
slowly
ago?
turned around.
Of course we
He
remember.
seemed to be roughly
Great
in his
Elder,
30s.
was that actually
and he
true?
was not handsome
Is
at
there
all.
really a
His
passage to
appearance
another
was
world
extremely
sealed beneath
ordinary.
the city?
His eyebrows
And that
were
the other
sharp,
world
like
is so
swords,
powerful that
while
just
his
the
face
number
was
of
weathered,
people who have
having
surpassed
survived
Saint
through
Emperor
wind and
exceeds
storms
10?
of blood.
A Saint
I've already
King from a
destroyed the
Protector
seal
clan
on the other
asked in a
side,
heavy voice.
but the space in
His
the tunnel
complexion
has
was
become
horrible.
extremely unstable.
All the people of the
after several
Protector
attacks
clans
from
had
me.
heard that there
It's
was
filled
a seal
with chaotic
beneath the
streams
city.
of space.
However,
So we
the
can't
matter
pass
just seemed
through it.
far too
We can
can only go after it
They
has
all chose not
stabilized,
to believe it
before
answered the
personally
Spirit King.
witnessing it.
With that,
Treating
the
it as
Origin
a
Realm
baseless
experts
rumor.
immediately beamed in joy.
However,
One of the
they
returnants'
could
old
not
men
help but
excitedly
believe the
said,
story a little
"The
more now
Spirit
that
King
the most
really is the
powerful
hope of
city
our
on the
world,
continent had
to have
suffered
completed
such
the
great
world's wish
changes
from so many
What?
years ago all
There's
by
a passage
himself.
sealed beneath
Over
Mercenary
200
City.
years ago,
Just
our
the number
world
of
gave
people
birth
that has
to
surpassed
5 reciprocity
Emperor
Spirit
exceeds
Kings.
10?
But
How
they
is
had
that
failed to
possible?
smash through the
A
seal
few
even
Saint
after
Kings
working
who had
together.
not heard of the matter
The current
before
Spirit
immediately
King
revealed
possesses
a
the
different
power to
expression.
rival all
They
5
were
of them,
all
all
frightened
by
by the
himself.
power of the world
The
of
Spirit
Forsaken
King is the
Saints.
strongest
There was
expert
only
of the
3
world of
Saint
Forsaken
Emperors on the
Saints in all of
Tianyuan
history.
continent right now.
How were they supposed
The
to
Spirit
repel the
King did
world
not
of
react
Forsaken
in any
Saints
particular
if
way
they
to
really
the
were
old
that
man's
powerful?
compliments? Even if
His
the four
expression
great
remained
races
as
gathered
nonchalant
together
as before,
all they would be in for was a slaughter.
Origin realm
At
experts
this moment,
will bring very great
the energy
pressure
within
to the
the black
spatial
tunnel
tunnel
leading to the
enter,
foreign world
so they can only
turn
pass
deep
through
beneath
once
the
the space
city.
has completely
It caused the
stabilized,
surrounding space
and the
to
tunnel
tremble
has been
in an
reinforced.
extremely unstable
However,
manner.
experts
The
below
ceiling
the origin
formation
realm
had already
are not
become
restricted
visible,
by this,
and every
all we
single
need
thread
to do
of the
is wait
formation
for the
streams
streams
of
of
space
dazzling
in there
light,
to calm down,
radiating
the
with
weaker the
terrifying
person,
energy
the safer
that
they
filled
are.
the entire space.
One of you stay here
It
and
was like
keep
a
guard.
huge net
We'll send
stretched
some
across
people
the
through
entrance
to investigate
Xiao
the
Ling
situation
hovered
on
in
the
the
other
center of
side
the
first.
formation as
Do
her
not
bright
forget
eyes
our
flickered.
intentions.
She nervously
Yes,
stared
Spirit
at the
King.
formation before
All the
her,
origin realm
while her young
experts
face
replied at
was
the same
filled with
time.
fear.
Afterward,
She seemed extremely
the Spirit
pitiful.
King flew down the
Oh no,
mountain
oh no.
with his sword on
Master
his back.
Seal is
He
about to be
completely
broken.
ignored the spatial
What do I do?
cracks that could
Just
even
what do I
claim the
do?
lives of
I
those
can't
in the
last much
origin
longer.
realm halfway down the mountain.
Brother, where are you? I'm so scared. Xiao Ling hovered all by herself underground
Chapter
as she
1265.
Brother's too weak.
Countermeasures.
So even
Several
if he's
hundred
here,
Saint
he can't
Kings
help me.
currently hovered
Master,
above
Master,
Mercenary City.
where are you? Every
Master,
single one
come
of
out
them
quick.
had their
I
eyebrows
can't guard
furrowed
the seal
tightly
much
with
longer.
extremely stern
This person is
expressions.
too powerful.
After they learned that
Master,
a tunnel
where
to
are
another
you?
world was
Don't
truly
abandon
sealed
me.
beneath the city,
Xiao Ling could
they
not
all
help but
contacted
burst
every
into tears
Saint
as
King
soon
they
as her
knew,
master was
leading
mentioned.
to even more
Her
hurrying
relationship
over.
with Mo
In the
Tianyan
end,
was like a
the
daughter
Saint
and her
Kings
father.
gathered at Mercenary City's
only
disappearance
increased
to her was like
this was
a
because
3-year-old
all of them
child
could
losing
feel that
both
this
her
was
parents.
something significant, directly tied to the safety of the continent. It was far more severe than the invasion of the Beast God continent before. Every single one of them was responsible for protecting the continent, even if many of them were independent. Great Elder, what should we do now? And can that seal block the attacks from the experts of the world of Forsaken Saints or not? A Great Elder of a Protector clan asked in worry. With so many people, all they could do was gather there. They did not even possess the strength to take any action, let alone know about the situation of the seal. I don't know about the situation underground either. Even if this land has lost the protection of the barrier's strength, it's still not a place we can just barge into. We can only ask the spirit of the barrier to gain a detailed understanding, replied Tianjian with a heavy voice. Does the barrier spirit still exist now that the barrier of the city is gone? A 9th heavenly layer Saint King asked in surprise. He was also a great elder of a protector clan. No one else knew the true identity of the barrier spirit on the present continent other than Jian Shun and the heavenly enchantress. Even Tianjian did not know. All of them believed that the barrier spirit was a spirit that had been born from the barrier and was dependent on the barrier. With so many years, the barrier spirit has always guarded the seal beneath Mercenary City. The barrier is gone now, but I am almost certain that the barrier spirit still exists. I just don't know how to contact it, said Tianjian. But just as he finished speaking, a girl's cries of sorrow suddenly rang out. Her cries were extremely sorrowful, and when all the Saint Kings heard her sobs, their expressions all changed, because they could not find the source despite hearing them clearly. It seemed to have originated from nowhere. Have the experts of the world of Forsaken Saints come? The ancestral emperor of the Felicity Empire heavily asked. His expression became extremely horrible. He could sense the person's strength just from the sobs. No, it's the barrier spirit. Tianjian cried out as he beamed. As expected, a girl who seemed to be 12 or 13 years old slowly appeared in the air, as soon as Tianjian finished speaking. When she first appeared, she was just a faint image, but her figure started to rapidly consolidate at a visible rate. Within just a few seconds, she had become completely tangible. She seemed fleshy, far more realistic than any time Jianshan had seen her. This time, Xiao Ling did not hide her existence. Her figure was completely revealed, allowing everyone to see her clearly as she constantly rubbed away her tears. Everyone turned their gazes toward her and became filled with curiosity and shock, including Tianjian. This was the first time anyone here had seen Xiao Ling. What had taken a lot of them by surprise was that the barrier spirit was actually such a cute girl. Barrier spirit, what's the situation underground? Is the seal still whole? Tianjian nervously inquired. It's broken, it's broken. The seal's been broken by the bad people on the other side. Boo-hoo, Master's seal has been destroyed. Oh no, what do I do? Xiao Ling sobbed. She was filled with a sense of helplessness. The complexions of all the people present became extremely horrible, and some of them even paled slightly. Barrier spirit, What's the strength of the world of forsaken saints? A great elder from a protector clan asked a heavy question. I don't know, but the person who broke the seal is so strong. He's at least at reciprocity. I can't beat him. Xiaoling became terrified as soon as they mentioned the Spirit King. Reciprocity? Is that a realm beyond Saint Emperor? An independent Saint King mumbled. Even the 10 protector clans, which had existed for many years, did not have too great of an understanding regarding the cultivation realms beyond Saint Emperor. Master said that above sainthood is the origin realm. The origin realm has 3 smaller levels, which are receival, returnance, and reciprocity. The person who broke the seal is at reciprocity at the very least, but I'm only at returnance, so how can I beat him? Don't look down on the strength between returnance and reciprocity. Master said that the difference between the two is like Saint King and Saint Emperor, Xiaoling explained. All the people present immediately gasped. All of them understood exactly how vast the difference between Saint King and Saint Emperor was. The difference was as immense as the earth and the sky. They could not be compared. What? How is the world of forsaken saints so powerful? If we compare those who have just surpassed Saint Emperor to Saint Rulers, doesn't that mean that Saint Emperors are just Heaven Saint Masters? And we Saint Kings would only be equivalent to Earth Saint Masters, using several hundred Earth Saint Masters to fight against a Saint Emperor? What is this joke? An independent Saint Kings cried out in disbelief. The disparity was just far too great, so great, that it was unimaginable. Xiaoling worriedly said. The tunnel has already been opened, and without much longer, there will be people from the other side who will come over. Master once said that he entered that world all by himself and killed a lot of experts. I don't know if those people hold a grudge for Master. If they do, they'll definitely come to kill us once they come over. We better find something to do quick. Everyone was speechless and moaned inside. The world of forsaken saints even had experts who stood at the apex of the origin realm, so no one was certain whether they had others at receival and returnance. Even in ancient times when the Tianyuan continent was most prosperous, they would not be their opponents, let alone now. The city lord left behind an extremely tough divine hall in Mercenary City back then. I wonder if it'll be useful, Tianjian said with a deep voice. The divine hall's power was evident. It could even kill Saint Emperors, but Tianjian was not confident about experts of the origin realm, because the divine hall had never been used against them before. So it was obviously impossible for him to know whether it could block their attacks or not. Xiaoling's eyes immediately lit up. She excitedly responded, Oh yeah, we still have the divine hall that Master left us. The divine hall is very tough. Probably even I can't break through it. I just don't know if it can block attacks from experts at reciprocity, but there's no other choice now. Quickly move Master's divine hall to guard the entrance. Okay, I'll go refine the divine hall immediately. Tianjian left with that. He knew that time was very tight, and he needed to refine the divine hall in the shortest amount of time possible. There's also Fairy Haoyu's Bright Moon Divine Hall. The divine hall is extraordinarily tough. Even Saint Emperors cannot destroy it. We can borrow the divine hall to guard the tunnel, although I don't know if it can stop them. But it'll be better than nothing, said a great elder of a protector clan. Chapter 1266. Violet Cloud Peaches. As soon as someone mentioned that they wanted to use the Bright Moon Divine Hall to guard the entrance of the tunnel, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's face immediately sank. The Divine Hall only belonged to Yu, and Yu was Jian Chen's fiancé. If they really managed to obtain the Divine Hall to plug the entrance, getting it back would not be easy. This was because the Bright Moon Divine Hall was also a structure that even Saint Emperors could not smash through. In order for the people of the protector clans to maintain their authority on the continent, they could not let such a powerful divine hall exist. The people of the protector clans dared not to touch Yu before. First, because they would not be able to do anything to her if she hid in the divine hall. Second, Jian Chun was beside her, as well as 3 powerful magical beasts that stood on equal ground with Saint Emperors. As a result, the protector clans could only helplessly watch the powerful divine hall end up with Yu without being able to do anything. However, the situation was completely different now. The existence of the world of Forsaken Saints was an extremely great threat to the Tianyuan continent. It could even be described as a disaster that could impact the entire world. Using this as an opportunity to take away the Divine Hall was all in the name of the greater good. So no one could say anything, and if the Divine Hall was destroyed, the people of the Protector clans wouldn't mind that happening. However, the people who would end up losing out would be his side. Changyang Zhu Yinshao made up his mind to prevent this at all costs. The Bright Moon Divine Hall is indeed extremely tough, and the materials used to construct it are extremely rare, forged from substances of the moon. However, Fairy Hao Yu, who crafted it, was only a peak Saint Emperor at most. She did not reach the origin realm. Her Divine Hall probably can block the attacks of Saint Emperors at most, and it'll be useless before those of the origin realm. A great elder of the Yangji sect sneered when he heard that. We're currently facing a devastating threat. No matter what it is, we will try it as long as there's a sliver of hope of stopping the experts from the world of Forsaken Saints. We, the 10 Protector clans, have quite a few Divine Halls, but all of them can only block the attacks of Saint Kings. They're completely useless before Saint Emperors. And with the entire continent in perspective, only the Divine Hall of Mercenary City and the Bright Moon Divine Hall can perhaps block attacks from experts of the origin realm. That's right. We can no longer talk about personal benefits or losses at this moment. The Tianyuan continent is facing danger, and every single person is responsible for its safety. Brother, I'll visit Flame City with you and borrow the Bright Moon Divine Hall. If they don't comply, we can only react correspondingly, said a great elder of the Ian sect righteously. He seemed like he was solemn on the surface, but he sneered inside. Jian Chun, you killed a great elder of my Yuan sect and completely embarrassed us. We might not be able to take revenge on you, but you cannot stop us from taking away your girl's Divine Hall. The great elder of the Yangji sect immediately beamed now that he obtained the support of a great elder from the Ian sect. He looked around and said, Everyone, may I ask if there is anyone else willing to come with us to Flame City, to borrow the Bright Moon Divine Hall and safeguard the Tianyuan continent? An independent Saint King stepped forward and sternly said, I may have secluded myself as a hermit and never took part in any conflicts, but this matter directly relates to the fate of the Tianyuan continent, so I obviously cannot stand down. Allow me to accompany you. If the Bright Moon Divine Hall can stop the invasion of the world of Forsaken Saints, the owner of the Divine Hall will commit a service of great merit. A few other Saint Kings stepped forward after him. Almost all of them were independent cultivators who stayed isolated in desolate regions like hermits. In the end, the Yangji sect and the Yuan sect sent 2 Saint Kings, each to travel to Mercenary City, with another 5 independent Saint Kings, for a total of 9 people. Changyang Zhu Yinshao panicked inside when he saw this. Just when he wanted to say something, he was stopped by Changyang Zhu Xiao through a message. Yunshao, this is not the time for you to stop them. The people of the Yangji sect and the Yuan sect are very biased against Jian Shen. So if you want to stop them, be careful about getting dragged into it, as well as becoming a public target of scorn. Changyang Zhu Yinshao fell silent and sighed inside. He wanted to help you keep the Divine Hall very much, but he could do nothing. The Grand Elder of Mercenary City said, Everyone, the world of Forsaken Saints doesn't just pose a threat to our Tianyuan continent. Even the sea race, the magical beasts, and the 100 races will face a similar threat. I believe we should send envoys to all 3 races with a request for reinforcements. Although our strength is extremely insignificant compared to the world of Forsaken Saints, we need to stop them from coming over with everything we have. The Grand Elder cannot be more correct, but we are not on good terms with the 3 other races. We've even fallen out a little with the magical beasts and the 100 races, so I believe we should think through this some more before deciding, said a great elder of a Protector clan. Then please come into the miniature world of our Mercenary City. We can discuss countermeasures there. Jian Shen had no clue that the seal beneath Mercenary City had been destroyed since he was in the Xianhuang microcosm. He was currently traveling with Tai Ta, making their way to the center. He came across a few regions with some vegetation. Every single region with vegetation would contain springs of life, as well as xianhuang beasts. Jianchen would take half the spring water from every region, as well as the essence that had been nurtured by the spring of life. The essence was the true object of value. It was extremely beneficial to the soul, and the sea goddess required this as a material to reconstruct her body. Along the way, more and more spring water accumulated in Jianchen's artifact space. It had exceeded 40,000 liters. Half of it was at the first grade of the immortal tier. Over 10,000 liters was of the second, while the remaining amount was of the third. Third grade of the immortal tier was the highest quality spring water Jianchen had come across so far. Other than the spring water, Jianchen had found many various heavenly resources as well. There were ginsengs, ganodermas, knotwood, and so on from the ones he could recognize. Every single one of them had exceeded 100,000 years in maturity, and all of them had been tainted with faint xianhuang qi due to growing in the xianhuang microcosm, allowing them to increase in value. Jianchen had come across over 10 immortal tier heavenly resources that he had never seen or heard before, but they were of the second grade at most. Jianchen had also learned that the sword spirits did not care about these heavenly resources at all. The only reason they got him to collect them was because they would be useful to him. Jianchen also came across another 3 comprehension tea trees and removed all their leaves. Unfortunately, all of them were of the first grade. Other than that, Jianchen had slain several dozen class 7 and 8 xianhuang beasts and collected the energy crystals that corresponded to monster cores. Although Jianchen had only spent 7 days in the xianhuang microcosm, Jianchen was extremely satisfied with what he had obtained in that time frame. Taita was the same. He had always been smiling in those days and could not even close his mouth since he had also obtained several dozen energy crystals, all of them of the 7th or 8th class. When Jianchen crossed several dozen kilometers of barren land and arrived at another region of life, he discovered a 3-meter-tall peach tree growing there. It was covered with fist-sized peaches, violet in color. All of them were actually the exact same size. Master, these are immortal peaches, the violet cloud peaches. It only bears a single fruit every 9,000 years, and it can only bear 108 peaches throughout its life. Consuming the peach can directly increase the level of cultivation of the person. The highest quality peaches are of the 9th grade in the immortal tier. They can increase your level of cultivation by 4,500 years worth. The peaches in front of you are only of the first grade, and consuming one of them can only increase your cultivation by 500 years. Chapter 1267. The Sword Spirit's World. A peach can increase my cultivation by 500 years? Ziying, just how much is 500 years? And how is it calculated? Jianchen asked in some doubt. A few saint rulers could never reach Saint King within their lifespan, while others would only require a few decades. Jianchen was extremely curious to know the exact amount of 500 years' worth of cultivation. Ziying pondered silently before responding. Master, there's quite a few heavenly resources that can directly increase the cultivation of the user, like the peaches back in our world, and all of them are measured by the number of years they can increase. This amount is calculated from the amount of cultivation gained by a person with ordinary talent as they absorb immortal energy in the given time frame. A peach that can increase someone's cultivation by 500 years contains the amount of energy equivalent to the achievements of a person with ordinary talent after cultivating for 500 years. But some people with impressive or astonishing talent will cultivate extremely quickly. They will only need 100 years, just a few decades, or a couple years to reach what an ordinary person would achieve in 500 years. Jianchen finally gained an understanding of the 500 years of cultivation the peaches could provide him with. He thought, a single immortal peach can increase my cultivation by 500 years. It does sound rather terrifying, but it's just the achievements of a person with ordinary talent in a 500-year time span. On the other hand, I've attained achievements that some people might not even attain in 3,000 years, within less than half a century. And the amount of energy my chaotic body needs is unimaginably vast. Looks like the effects of the peaches won't be as great on me as I initially imagined. Ziying, how many peaches do I have to eat to reach the 4th layer? And if I want to reach the 5th, how many would that be? Jianshan asked. He was tempted to immediately ingest the peaches to strengthen his chaotic body after learning about the effects. Master, a first-grade immortal peach is roughly equivalent to 2 Class 9 monster cores. Master's chaotic body may have reached the peak of the 3rd layer, but a single first-grade peach won't be enough to reach the 4th layer. You will require 3 at the very least. However, the immortal peaches cannot be eaten as Master has imagined. After ingesting the first one, you must wait 100 years before ingesting a second, or it'll have no effects at all. Ziyang explained rather bitterly. This obliterated Jianshan's thoughts of eating a whole lot of them at once. Jianshan became disappointed with that, but he also learned that he needed to ingest a violet cloud peach that could provide 1,500 years worth of cultivation to reach the 4th layer, or 6 Class 9 monster cores. Although he still had the Class 8 and 9 monster cores he had obtained from the Heaven's Incense School, Jianshan did not plan on using them right now since he would not necessarily reach the 4th layer with them, and it would waste a lot of time as well. He did not have much time in the Xianhuang microcosm. He wanted to use the remaining time to find as many heavenly resources as he could to bring out with him. However, what did shock Jianshan was that a single first-grade peach was equivalent to 2 Class 9 monster cores. Perhaps because Ziying understood what Jianshan was thinking, he explained, Master, the stronger the person becomes, the faster they can absorb immortal energy. The people from our world cannot be compared to the Tianyuan continent. The accumulated energy of 500 years from any single one of them with ordinary talent is equivalent to several thousand years from a person with impressive talent on the Tianyuan continent, which is why a first-grade peach contains enough energy to rival 2 Class 9 monster cores. Also, the energy from our world is at a level greater than the Tianyuan continent. If a Saint Emperor from the Tianyuan continent goes to our world to cultivate, their rate will increase by several-fold at least. Not only is this because the energy of our world is several times more abundant than the Tianyuan continent, it also has immortal energy that is on a higher level. The immortal energy is on the same level as the origin energy that Master knows about. Is that so? Jianshan gained a better understanding. He could not help but ask, Ziying Qingsuo, just what was the world you two came from like? This question had weighed on Jianshan's heart for many years now. He had once asked this question before, but the sword spirits declined to answer because he was still too weak. Now he finally could not help but ask again. Both of them fell silent. After quite a long while, Qingsuo said, Master, we originally planned on answering this question after you reach Saint Emperor, but you're not far from that level now. Since Master wants to know so much, we'll tell you. A sliver of reminiscence appeared in Qingsuo's eyes as she continued. Master, the world we came from is called the Immortals' World. It's a higher world that's even greater than the Tianyuan continent. Saint Emperors in our world are only people at the lowest level. In our world, they are like newly born infants, having just stepped upon the path of cultivation. Even with mental preparation, Jianshan was greatly shocked by what they said. Right now, he could not even match up to a Saint Emperor. To him, they were undefeatable existences. Yet they were actually insignificant in the world where the sword spirits came from. Jianshan had been taken aback by this fact. Qingsuo continued. Back in Master's former world, Qingsuo and I were greatly injured due to the destruction of our swords. We were in a slumber and recovered at an extremely slow rate. Afterward, the familiar presence from Master's cultivation of the Azulite sword's law awakened us. Back then, we discovered Master in a world with extremely thin energy, yet you were able to attain such accomplishments with the sword at such a young age, all by yourself, through an incomplete copy of the cultivation method. So we were drawn in by your talent. At that time, we just happened to make it the moment before Master died. So Ziying and I guarded Master's soul, and wanted to take Master to the Immortals' world. We believed that Master would definitely achieve impressive accomplishments when cultivating in the immortals world with Master's talent in the sword. It was just that we had never expected that we had not recovered enough strength. We were unable to break through the barriers of the worlds. Coupled with the fact that we expended our energy extremely quickly as we traveled through space, we could not last much longer, which was why we accidentally brought you to the Tianyuan continent. Jianchen could not help but think back to the moment when he had fought Duge Qiubai in the past. Back then, the two of them had perished together. He had accidentally come to the Tianyuan continent with the help of the sword spirits, but he just wondered what Duge Qiubai's situation was. Did he die back then? Jianchen gently sighed inside. He became slightly disconsolate and said, Ziying Qingxua, I will be going to the immortals world sooner or later. Jianchen also understood that it would become more difficult to raise his chaotic body to the later layers. The Tianyuan continent did not have enough resources to support his growth, so he needed to proceed to the immortals world if he wanted his chaotic body to keep growing, so he could find even more resources. Ziying opened his mouth. He wanted to say something, but he held it back in the end. Only he and Qingxua understood that since they had come here, returning to the immortals world would be riddled with obstructions. It would never be that easy. 2/5 heavenly layer Saint King Xianhuang beasts guarded the immortal peaches. They were finished off by Jianchen and Tai Ta without any effort at all. Even though the two of them possessed very tough bodies, they were unable to stand up against Jianchen and Tai Ta, who possessed extraordinary battle prowess. In the end, the two of them took an energy crystal each. Jianchen did not miss the corpses either. Afterward, Jianchen began to collect the violent cloud peaches. The tree had a total of 108 of them, and he picked all of them. He could fit 1 to around a dozen peaches in each jade box he had, depending on its size. Jianchen completely ran out of jade boxes to store heavenly resources after picking the peaches, or more accurately, he had run out of jade boxes he had prepared. He would need to sort through his other space rings for more of them. As Jianchen worried over the possibility of not enough boxes, the sword spirits suddenly informed him that the wood from the Xianhuang microcosm could be used to make boxes, which could also be used to store the heavenly resources. As a result, Jianchen and Tai Ta worked together, collecting a large amount of wood nearby and sending it into the artifact space. Jianchen got the elites of the flame mercenaries to make the boxes, and also urged the artifact spirit to direct all the class 7 magical beasts into human forms to create boxes as well. Chapter 1268. 5th Grade Comprehension Tea Tree Jian. Chen no longer needed to worry about not having enough boxes now that there was such a large number of people and magical beasts, creating them for him in the artifact space. 2 days later, Jianchen came across an even larger region of life. It seemed more like a huge oasis, taking up several tens of thousands square kilometers. The vegetation was lush and grew vigorously as huge trees towered several hundred meters high. A mountain 1,000 meters tall stood at the center of the region. It was extraordinarily steep and slippery, making it extremely difficult to scale. However, an ancient tree, around a person's height, stood at the very top of it like an old man. It was not tall, but it was teeming with life, as if it would never decay away. That's a comprehension tea tree. Jianchen immediately cried out in joy as he stared at the tree at the very top. Although he was very far away, he could recognize it with his vision, and he felt something vastly different about it compared to the first-grade trees he had come across before. It was clearly of a higher grade. That's a 5th-grade comprehension tea tree, said Ziying, having recognized it with a single glance. And there's flamecloud fruit here. The effects of flamecloud fruit are the same as violet cloud peaches. They can directly increase the cultivation of a person, and they possess the effects of refining immortal energy. The only defect is that flamecloud fruit is only effective to those who practice fire-attributed cultivation methods. Although Master uses chaotic force, and is not limited by the attributes in terms of power, the effects of the fruit will be greatly reduced for Master, Qingxua said in pity. Jianchen glanced over, and indeed discovered a small tree covered in red halfway up the mountain. It was only 10 meters tall, and covered in thumb-sized red fruit. Is that the flame cloud fruit? Jianshan mumbled softly. He discovered that the red fruit shone with a red glow, as if there was a ball of flames flickering inside. These flame cloud fruit possess even great benefits for those who practice fire-attributed cultivation methods. Senior Hong Lian just happens to use fire-attributed energy, so these fruits should be very beneficial to her. Just a single one of them should be enough to elevate Senior Hong Lian to a Saint Emperor, Jianshan thought. He immediately remembered Hong Lian when he learned the effects of the fruit. Jianshan patted Tai Ta on his shoulder before moving. He had already charged off toward the mountain using the illusory flash, while Tai Ta followed close behind him. He was no slower than Jianshan. Jianshan was extremely cautious along the way. Every single region of life possessed Xianhuang beasts, and the more valuable the item, the stronger the Xianhuang beasts would be. Since a 5th grade comprehension tea tree had appeared here, the beast which guarded it would be extremely powerful as well. It was extremely likely that it would be the strongest Xianhuang beast he would face since he had come into this place. However, Jianshan was surprised by the fact that he did not come across a single Xianhuang beast when he made it to the foot of the mountain. He did not even sense the presence of a Xianhuang beast. Jianshan and Tai Ta looked at each other. They were rather stern. This situation only meant that the Xianhuang beast's strength had completely exceeded the two of them. Once it hid itself, it would be extremely difficult to find. Jianshan, this might be a Saint Emperor Xianhuang beast, Tai Ta said with his heavy, deep voice. He was extremely stern, but he did not show any fear at all. Jianshan gave a deep nod in agreement. Xianhuang beasts do not have intelligence. They completely rely on their instincts to fight. Even if it's a Saint Emperor Xianhuang beast, it will be nowhere near as powerful as a Saint Emperor in all aspects other than its toughness. It will not know any Saint Emperor abilities either, so we still can kill it. With that, Jianshan began to climb the mountain. The steepness of the rocks did not trouble Jianshan. As if it was any flat ground, he easily made his way up, and Tai Ta followed close behind him. If it were not for the fact that flight was restricted in this world, reaching the top would have been even easier. Before long, Jianshan and Tai Ta arrived at the peak, but their expressions suddenly changed in the next moment. Chapter 1269. Class 9 Xianhuang Beast. Before, when the two of them were below the mountain, their vision had been obscured, so they could not see the top of the mountain from afar. Now that they had scaled the mountain, everything was clear to them. The peak of the mountain took up a very large expanse of space. It was craggy and filled with ditches, especially in the center. There was a 20-meter deep ditch that was over 1,000 meters wide, and in the center of it lay two extremely large Xianhuang beasts. The two of them were larger than any Xianhuang beast Jianshan had ever seen. He had come across many Class 7 and 8 Xianhuang beasts in the past, but all of them were several dozen meters long at most. Yet the two alligator-like Xianhuang beasts in front of him were 1,000 meters long. Even though they lay on the floor, they were 30 meters tall and wide. From afar, they looked like huge bridges. Jianshan could not sense the presence of the two Xianhuang beasts at all. This was not because they knew how to hide it, but this was a natural phenomena that would occur once their strength reached a certain level. To be able to do that, the two beasts clearly were much more powerful than Jianshan and Tai Ta. Two Class 9 Xianhuang beasts. Jianshan's heart sank slightly. Even though he had expected the beast that guarded a 5th grade comprehension tea tree to have reached the level of Saint Emperor, he definitely did not think that there would be two of them. If there was just a single one, he and Tai Ta could still confidently deal with it if they worked together. But it would be a whole different story if there were two. The moment Jianshan and Tai Ta made it to the top, the two alligator-like Xianhuang beasts opened their eyes at the same time. For large, orange-yellow eyes landed on the two of them. They were bright and filled with a violent thirst for blood. Jianshan and Tai Ta immediately felt that they had been locked on by a vast presence, as if a huge mountain sat on top of them. They felt their bodies increase in weight as their movements became dulled as well. "Let's go." Without any hesitation, Jianshan immediately cried out and leaped off the mountain with Tai Ta. They quickly floated into the distance. Although the mountain peak was spacious, it was not suitable for battle. In order to prevent the ripples of battle from reaching the comprehension tea tree, Jianchen and Taita could only draw the two Class 9 Xianhuang beasts away. Almost the moment they had leaped off, the two alligator produced weird ear-piercing cries. They stood up at that moment and became 50 meters tall. They were like mountains. The entire mountain suddenly shook violently, while the two alligators followed Jianchen and Taita, jumping off in pursuit. This region was their territory, so they clearly would not let the two ant-like existences that had intruded escape. Although the two alligators were huge, they were also nimble. They were extremely quick as well, actually quite a bit faster than Jianchen and Taita. In the blink of an eye, they had caught up to them by quite a bit. Sensing that the alligators were getting closer and closer, Jianchen immediately used his illusory flash, and his speed abruptly exploded. He tore away from the alligator once more with a long streak of afterimages behind him. Mysteries of War, Celestial Movement. At the same time, Taita used his Mysteries of War. He suddenly vanished before reappearing several kilometers away in the next moment. Like teleportation, his figure flickered, and he managed to travel over 20 kilometers away from the alligator. He was much faster than Jianchen. At this moment, Jianchen and Taita had already drawn the two alligators several dozen kilometers away. Afterward they stopped, as if they understood each other tacitly, and quietly waited for the two beasts to reach them. Jianchen and Taita did not stand together, but over 10 kilometers away. The two Xianhuang beasts split up as well, each charging toward one target. Clearly, one of the Xianhuang beasts was female while the other was male, but their strength was the same. Suddenly, a bright golden light began to flicker. Taita had drawn his golden axe as he stood there in an awe-inspiring manner. He bathed in the golden light, erect like a war god as powerful battle intent revolved around him. He gave off a feeling that made him seem like he was invincible. Jianchen also stood with his emperor armament. He stood dead straight as a powerful sword intent radiated from him, surging straight into the sky. He seemed to have become a sword that hovered in the surroundings. Jianchen dared not to show any carelessness against two Class 9 Xianhuang beasts. He was already ready to use everything he had. At that moment, his consciousness completely fused with his sword intent, as if he had combined with the emperor armament in his hand. Suddenly, he seemed to sense something, but he was unable to grasp it no matter what. It felt like it was concealed by layers of mist, making it hazy and extremely blurry. This is the way of the sword. Jianchen's heart twitched. He could feel once again that he had touched the first realm of the way of the sword. But to his disappointment, he had never been able to grasp it, perhaps due to the fact that he did not have his fated sword. He always felt like he was lacking something. Jianchen did not have the time to comprehend the mysteries of the way of the sword in detail. The Class 9 Xianhuang beast had already arrived before him. It opened its mouth and bit at Jianchen. At the same time, a powerful suction force emerged from its mouth, attempting to suck Jianchen in. Jianchen immediately felt his movements slow down in an abnormal way now, because of the suction force. However, he was not flustered at all. Chaotic force surged out of him and wrapped around him to resist the suction force. He used the illusory flash to avoid the alligator's mouth and stabbed out as hard as he could at the alligator's head along the way. Ding! With a crisp sound, like the collision of metal, Jianchen's full-powered attack failed to harm the alligator at all. He even failed to break through the alligator's skin, only leaving behind a faint white mark. What a tough body. Looks like I can only attack its weakest point. Jianchen was secretly shocked. The Class 9 Xianhuang beast's flesh had reached an unbelievable level of toughness. His full-powered attack, equal to a Saint King at 7th heavenly layer, could not harm it at all. By the looks of things, probably even a Saint King at great perfection using all his strength could not break through the alligator's skin. Chapter 1270, Scarlet Gold or 1. At the same time, the huge, golden axe in Taita's hand landed on his Class 9 Xianhuang beast. The outcome was the same as Jianchen's. His powerful strike failed to harm the Xianhuang beast at all, not even puncturing its skin. All that was left was a faint mark. Taita immediately frowned at this. The toughness of the Xianhuang beast had also exceeded his imaginations, but he did not become dejected at all. He now gripped the axe with 2 hands as he lifted it high above his head. It shone with a bright golden light as a powerful battle intent coiled around him, fusing with the axe head. Mysteries of War Mortality Breaker. Tai Ta called out as the axe was swung down covered in a coating of golden light. This time, Tai Ta used the Mysteries of War, so it was far more powerful than his attack earlier. Boom! The golden axe landed on the Xianhuang beast, and actually produced a heavy boom. Violent streams of energy shot out in all directions as storms of energy, kicking dust and stones into the air. The dust obscured most of Tai Ta and the Xianhuang beast. Tai Ta's strength had increased a lot after he had cultivated for 3 months in the whirlpool of energy. He was far more powerful than he had been in the battle against the Tao family. The power of his Mysteries of War had even reached the 8th heavenly layer of Saint King, now even stronger than Jianshen. However, his attack still failed to break through the Xianhuang beast's skin, only leaving behind a white mark that was slightly bigger than before. Roar! The Xianhuang beast was angered and produced a deafening roar. It raised one of its limbs and pressed it against Tai Ta. It clearly could not allow such an insignificant ant-like existence to attack it time and time again. Although it did not possess any intelligence, it felt supremacy due to its strength, unable to tolerate contact from those weaker than it. Due to being overly large, the Xianhuang beast's limb was extremely huge as well. It was 20 to 30 meters wide, larger than a regular house. The Xianhuang beast quickly slammed down its foot. Like a huge stamp descending from the sky, it engulfed an entire region. Tai Ta immediately felt a vast pressure appear beneath him, since he was below the foot. Although the Class 9 Xianhuang beast did not know any special abilities, it was still a powerful existence on par with Saint Emperors after all. Just any old attack from it possessed an extremely large amount of force, and the pressure created could trap any prey that was weaker than it. Tai Ta felt his body become heavier and heavier. His feet had already sunk into the ground and continued to sink. The Xianhuang beast's huge foot rapidly came crashing down from above him. With every inch it fell, the pressure Tai Ta felt became greater. Mysteries of War, Celestial Movement. Tai Ta cried out before using a Mystery of War again. Bathing in golden light, he suddenly vanished with a flash, and reappeared on the back of the Xianhuang beast like he had teleported. Mysteries of War Destruction. Tai Ta roared out, and was covered by golden light. Supreme battle intent permeated his surroundings once again. It combined with his axe as invisible energy and strengthened it. A destructive energy erupted from the axe that seemed like it could destroy everything in the surroundings. Just from the presence, destruction was far more powerful than Mortality Breaker. One of them was just a simple but powerful attack, while the other possessed an aura of destruction. It could annihilate anything. When the golden axe struck the back of the Xianhuang beast with its destructive aura, it actually left behind a thin 2-meter-long gash. Tai Ta's destruction could actually puncture the skin of the Xianhuang beast. Although the wound was only an inch deep, not even a tenth of the beast's hide, it was still shocking. The Xianhuang beast violently shook in an attempt to throw Tai Ta off its back. Tai Ta held onto a protrusion on its back, securing himself firmly to the beast's back. He swung his axe with one hand, and continued to use destruction on the 2-meter-long gash, causing it to rapidly widen. Once he got through the thick hide of the Xianhuang beast, he would be able to harm it. The Xianhuang beast immediately began to growl angrily, and stomp the ground, when it saw how it could not shake off the insignificant existence on its back. It created huge ditches one after another in the tough soul, as it used its thick and powerful tail to whip at Tai Ta. However, Tai Ta would avoid it using his celestial movement, before returning to the same spot, to continue deepening the wound. 1 swing, 2 swings, 3 swings. The force of destruction was greatly reduced since he was using it with one hand, but the Xianhuang beast could not endure his consecutive attacks. The gash became deeper and deeper on its back, but there was still no blood. The Xianhuang beast's hide was extremely thick. Tai Ta had not even cut through half of it. Tai Ta was like a piece of gum stuck to the beast's back, unable to be removed no matter what. Although the beast posed no harm to Tai Ta for now, it was still very difficult for him to slay the beast, since he had yet to even get through its hide. On the other side, Jian Chun used the illusory flash to avoid the attacks of the beast. After a period of weaving and dodging, Jian Chun had completely grasped the way the beast attacked. It did not use any tricks, and only used the most primitive methods of attack as a beast. Although it possessed the great strength of a Saint Emperor, it was not even as threatening as a ninth heavenly layer Saint King besides its thick skin. Jian Chun hid himself from the beast's vision. With his presence fully erased, he silently made his way below the beast and stabbed as hard as he could at its snow-white belly. However, the attack failed to harm the Xianhuang beast at all. Jian Chun felt his sword strike something soft, preventing him from using any force. The belly was the weakest point of many magical beasts, and it was a crucial region that was directly connected to its various organs. Unfortunately, even this weak point of many magical beasts had been greatly strengthened on this Xianhuang beast. Looks like I can only attack its eyes, mouth, ears, and nostrils, Jian Chun sighed inside. In all his years of fighting, this was a battle he felt most helpless about. It was not because his opponent was far too powerful, but because their hide was just too thick. Jian Chun emerged from beneath the Xianhuang beast with a flash, standing right in front of the beast's head without hiding himself at all. He swung his emperor armament at the ground and immediately, a black crescent sword chi vanished into the soil. It moved through the ground, heading quickly toward the Xianhuang beast. Soil was kicked into the air wherever the sword chi passed, launching large swathes of sand and dust into the air. The sky became a hazy mess. Both Jian Chun and the Xianhuang beast had their vision obscured in such circumstances, unable to see each other at all. Jian Chun closed his eyes and charged into the cloud of dust. At this moment, he no longer bothered with the fact that his soul would be consumed at an extremely rapid rate. He expanded the senses of his soul to 1,000 meters and used it to observe his surroundings as he rapidly approached the beast. At the same time, he carefully erased his presence to prevent the Xianhuang beast from discovering where he was. Jian Chun arrived 20 meters away from the Xianhuang beast's head very quickly. Suddenly, his speed exploded, and he traversed the distance with the illusory flash, arriving before the beast's eye. He radiated with a powerful sword intent as the emperor armament shone with a black streak of light that was several meters long. The violent and destructive presence entered the Xianhuang beast's eye, causing it to feel a piercing pain. Before the beast could close its eyes, the emperor armament had transformed into an obscure streak of black light, as it stabbed into one of the Xianhuang beast's eye that was half a man wide. The chaotic force hidden within the weapon wildly erupted, blinding the Xianhuang beast's eye at that moment. The residual energy used the eye as an entry and spread toward the brain of the Xianhuang beast in an attempt to destroy its central nervous system. The Xianhuang beast produced a painful cry as it writhed on the ground, kicking up even more dust and sand. It became so obscured that it was impossible for Jian Chun to see right in front of him. Jian Chun originally planned on using this opportunity to blind the beast's other eye as well, but seeing how it writhed in an unpredictable manner, all he could do was give up with no other choice and retreat. Not only did the Xianhuang beast's pain come from its blinded eye, it was also caused by the small amount of chaotic force Jian Chun had deposited. Wherever the energy went, the surrounding blood and flesh would vanish. The chaotic force quickly made its way toward the beast's head. The Xianhuang beast also seemed to be able to sense the threat traveling toward its brain. Energy immediately surged out like water from a broken dam, quickly reaching its head. Afterward, it surrounded the small amount of chaotic force and slowly nullified it. Jian Chun could sense the chaotic force vanish. He thought, the Xianhuang beast has grown up in the Xianhuang microcosm, so it must have absorbed some Xianhuang qi. Xianhuang qi is a powerful energy on par with chaotic force, so it possesses enough power to repel it. The threat of my chaotic force toward the beast has been greatly reduced. Greater effects will only appear when I use it on beasts that are weaker than me. My chaotic force will be wiped out before it can reach the beast's central nervous system. Looks like with my current strength, it's very difficult for me to slay Class 9 Xianhuang beasts, even when using its weak points to my advantage. Jianchen emotionlessly stared at the writhing Xianhuang beast in front of him. The light in his eyes flickered, but as if he had thought of something, a firmer gleam of light flashed through his eyes. The next moment, the saint artifact flew out from the center of his eyebrows, and with a wave of his hand, he removed something from the artifact space. At that moment, an extremely terrifying ripple of energy pervaded the surroundings. The energy ripple was so powerful that even the two Class 9 Xianhuang beasts paused. Chapter 1271, Scarlet Gold or 2. A pinky-sized ball of pure energy hovered in Jianchen's hand. It was the strand of Emperor's power he had obtained from Thisnik back in the Octaterra Divine Hall. It had personally been left in Thisnik's body by the Hall Master of the Serpent God Hall. Jianchen had stored the power in the artifact space since he had obtained it. The artifact spirit had personally watched over it. Jianchen had only taken it out to use it once against Kaiser. After so much time, he had almost forgotten about it, and only now did he remember it. All energies besides Jianchen's chaotic force and Tai Ta's power suffered restrictions in the Xianhuang microcosm. As soon as it appeared, the strand of Emperor's power quickly began to dissipate. Jianchen knew that he could not leave the Emperor's power out for too long. He looked at the region of dust caused by the writhing alligator and charged in without any hesitation. Using the senses of his soul to observe the surroundings, he immediately headed toward the alligator's head. The alligator seemed to sense that Jianchen now possessed a power great enough to threaten it. It temporarily forgot about the excruciating pain of its eye and began to slowly retreat. At the same time, a clear crack rang through the air as its thick and agile tail quickly whipped toward Jianchen. Jianchen's senses had locked onto the tail's trajectory, allowing him to agilely dodge it. With a flash, he arrived in front of the alligator's head and struck it with the strand of Emperor's power as quickly as he could. In order to prevent the power from being wasted, Jianchen attached a sliver of his soul to the power, so that he could control it in crucial moments. The Emperor power shot out extremely quick, targeting the blinded eye of the alligator. The beast wanted to flee, but it was unable to dodge the incoming power due to it being too slow. In the end, the valuable strand of energy struck the eye of the beast with utmost precision. Boom! With a heavy sound, the Emperor's power exploded in the beast's head. The great force caused its head to jolt as bright red and white substances sprayed out from its ears, mouth, nostrils and eyes. If the Emperor's power had struck the body of the beast, it probably would only have left behind some shallow wounds, just like what had happened to Kaiser. However, since it hit the alligator's weakest point, its head exploded, and it suffered fatal damage. Even with its tough body, it could not endure it. The beast's body froze. One of its eyes had been destroyed by the explosion of energy, and its huge body seemed to have become powerless, collapsing on the ground dead. Jianchen exhaled as he stood beside the alligator's corpse. He had finally slain a Class 9 Xianhuang beast, but Jianchen understood extremely well that if it were not for the Emperor's power, it would have been extremely difficult to kill it even if he ended up blinding both its eyes. At this moment, a great roar sounded out from afar. Seeing how its companion had died, the alligator fighting Tai Ta immediately charged at Jianchen with reddened eyes. It did not even pay any attention to Tai Ta on its back. At this moment, Tai Ta managed to get through its hide as well. He immediately hacked his axe at the flesh of the beast. Although its body was very tough, it was nowhere near as strong as its hide. Blood sprayed all over Tai Ta as soon as the axe struck the wound. However, Tai Ta's attack on the wound was no different than scratching an itch to the beast with its 1,000-meter-long body. Tai Ta did not become dejected at all. He had finally broken through the Xianhuang beast's hide after much difficulty. He immediately used the wound to his advantage, as his axe shone with a golden glow. He hacked at the wound time and time again, without showing any exhaustion. Jianchen was the only person present in the beast's eyes right now. It completely ignored Tai Ta, who was constantly hacking away at it on its back, as his attacks were no different from a mosquito's sting. The Xianhuang beast quickly ran toward Jianchen as a vast presence radiated from it unknowingly. It locked onto Jianchen, making him face a mountainous pressure. Jianchen stood where he was, unmoving. He stared at the alligator sternly, as he pondered how exactly he should deal with it. He was without the emperor's power now, so the method he had used to deal with the first one would not work. Even if he stabbed its eye and injected chaotic force, it would not achieve the expected outcome. This was because chaotic force became very weak against Xianhuang beasts. Xianhuang beasts possess Xianhuang qi inside. Even if it was not particularly pure and extremely thin, it was still an energy that stood on equal level with chaotic force. The Xianhuang beast quickly arrived before Jianchen and opened its gaping mouth to bite him. The 2 rows of sharp teeth shone with an icy cold light. Just looking at them was enough to cause people to shiver. Seeing how the Xianhuang beast wanted to eat him, a gleam of light flashed through Jianchen's eyes. This time he did not dodge. Instead, he shot into the alligator's mouth, like an arrow, before it could bite him, carefully avoiding its sharp teeth. Before the tongue could get to him, he slid down the Xianhuang beast's gullet and entered its stomach. It was pitch black in the stomach. Jianchen used his soul to sense the surroundings, understanding the environment he was in. He was covered in stomach acid, which made him feel a burning pain even with his body. However, his 3rd-layer chaotic body was enough to resist the corrosion. Jianchen did not hesitate as soon as he made it into the stomach. He wielded the emperor armament and swung it at the surroundings, using all he had to destroy the Xianhuang beast from inside out. This time, the Class 9 Xianhuang beast could not just endure the attacks. It was an excruciating pain from the great wounds, which caused it to constantly wail out. Its body writhed violently as well, almost rolling over Tai Ta, who was on its back. Jianchen's emperor armament shone brightly. With a single stroke, he could destroy all the organs within a range of 4 meters. He advanced through the Xianhuang beast's body, approaching its head. He would chop through all the walls of flesh that blocked his path. But at this moment, Jianchen felt an invisible force wrap around him. Just when he was about to react, he was bound by the power. It was extremely powerful, such that Jianchen could not even struggle for the time being. He felt his vision brighten as he was vomited out by the alligator. After learning from what had happened earlier, the Xianhuang beast clearly was not bold enough to open its mouth again. After spitting out Jianchen, it kept its mouth tightly. Jianchen quickly stabilized himself and used the same trick as before. With a sword qi thrown at the ground, large swathes of dust were kicked into the air, which blocked the Xianhuang beast's vision. He erased his presence as he silently made his way in front of the Xianhuang beast, stabbing one of its eyes with lightning-like speed. The Xianhuang beast could not help but wail from the pain. It opened its mouth, and Jianchen used the opportunity to enter the beast's body again. Without stopping at all, he continued to use the emperor armament to carve out a path by removing all the obstacles in his way, quickly approaching the beast's brain. At this moment, Jianchen could feel the invisible force wrap around him once again. He had already arrived in the head of the beast, so he shot a sword qi ahead of him without any second thought, targeting central nervous system. Immediately, a small portion of the beast's central nervous system was destroyed by Jianchen's sword qi. Although it did not die, it suffered fatal damage. Painfully tearing at the sky, it swayed and almost collapsed on the ground. It had lost control over the force it had condensed in its head to deal with Jianchen, causing it to disperse. Jianchen knew this was a rare opportunity, so he abruptly increased his speed. He arrived before the central nervous system, as fast as he could, and quickly swung out with his emperor armament. He created a densely packed net of attacks from this stroke, completely and utterly destroying the beast's central nervous system. Boom! With its destruction, the Xianhuang beast could not resist death no matter how vigorous its life force was. It finally collapsed on the group heavily. Sensing the life drain away from the Xianhuang beast, Tai Ta stopped his pointless hacking. He stared at the huge corpse on the ground and was clearly stunned. He then leaped off its body. He chuckled, "Jianchen's still the powerful one. Just when I got through its hide, you already killed it." Spurt! The Xianhuang beast's eye suddenly exploded, and Jianchen charged out of the socket, covered in various liquids, and appearing to be in a horrible shape. He threw the bloody energy crystal in his hand at Tai Ta and said, Tai Ta, that's yours. It's equivalent to a Class 9 monster core, so it should be able to increase your strength by quite a bit. Tai Ta caught the thumb-sized crystal and seriously replied, Jian Chun, you killed both of these Xianhuang beasts, so this should belong to you. I don't want it. With that, he was about to throw the crystal back at Jian Chun. Jian Chun raised his hand to stop Tai Ta. He said, the Xianhuang beasts will be coming across will become stronger and stronger. There will definitely be even more Class 9 Xianhuang beasts waiting for us later on. And possibly even those that have surpassed Class 9, ones that have surpassed Saint Emperor. We won't be able to get very far with just our current strength, so we need to become stronger as fast as possible. Only when we are stronger can we slay more Class 9 Xianhuang beasts. Jian Chun made up his mind then and there. After he collected the 5th grade comprehension tea leaves and the flame cloud fruit, he would immediately enter seclusion to break through to the 4th layer. He did not mind even if it did take up some of the precious remaining time. He understood that there would be even more valuable heavenly resources of higher grades later on, and that probably all of the beasts that guarded them would be Class 9, or peak existences among Class 9. With just his current strength, he could not make it far at all. Only by increasing his strength could he travel further and collect even more things. Tai Ta found what Jian Chun had said to be reasonable. He did not continue to insist after realizing that, accepting the Class 9 energy crystal. Afterward, Jian Chun removed an energy crystal of similar size from the other Xianhuang beast and stored it in his space ring. He also moved the 2 corpses into the artifact before using some 1st-grade spring water to wash his body. He changed into a new set of clothes before returning to the region where the 2 Class 9 Xianhuang beasts had lived. Scarlet gold ore. That's scarlet gold ore again, Master. We've found another material for forging the azulate swords. Before Jian Chun could collect the tea leaves, the azulate sword spirits called out in joy right when he made it to the top of the mountain. Jian Chun glanced over. In the pit where the 2 alligators had dwelled stood a golden piece of rock, half a man tall, glistening like gold. Jian Chun beamed in joy. He immediately ignored the comprehension tea tree and ran toward the rock. Although the tea leaves were valuable, they were not more valuable than a material to forge the azulate swords in Jian Chun's eyes. This was because he yearned for a sword that truly suited him from the bottom of his heart. At the same time, he needed to have a fated sword to comprehend the 5 realms of the way of the sword, when he would truly begin his cultivation of the sword. Chapter 1272. Secluded cultivation. Jian Chun stored the scarlet gold ore away in his space ring like it was a supreme treasure before sucking in a deep breath, slowly calming himself down. He was getting closer and closer to the day he could forge the swords. All he lacked now was the Een Hellstone, which was among the most valuable materials to forge the swords. Afterward, Jian Chun made his way to the comprehension tree. The tree was the same size as the ones he had come across before, but each leaf possessed an even heavier presence of ways. This 5th grade of the immortal tier comprehension tea tree was more valuable than the 3 1st-grade trees he had come across before. Jian Chun pulled out a crude wooden box from the artifact space before carefully snapping off 2 twigs from the tree. He used them as chopsticks as began to collect every single leaf. After collecting all 81 tea leaves, Jian Chun arrived by the cliff. He carefully made his way down along the slippery cliff face before finally arriving beside the flame cloud fruit tree. He pulled out another wooden box from the artifact space, slightly bigger than the one before, and began collecting the fruit. Each flame cloud fruit was completely red and the size of a thumb. They were the smallest heavenly resources Jian Chun had come across so far. Although they were extremely small, the amount of energy hidden inside could not be underestimated. As soon as he touched one of them, he could clearly feel the energetic fire-attributed energy within. It was extremely pure and vast. Even 100,000-year heavenly resource would not be able to match up to a single one of them. There was a total of 99 flame cloud fruits, and Jian Chun picked every single one of them. He then made his way to the spring of life, which supported the entire region. The Spring of Life was also the largest one he had come across since he had arrived in the Xianhuang microcosm. He saw was a 30-meter-wide lake, filled with green spring water. It radiated with a vast presence of life. This is a 5th-grade spring of life. Ziying recognized the quality of the spring water with a single glance and immediately informed Jianshen. Jianshen beamed inside with that. The highest grade of spring water in his artifact space was only of the 3rd. Not only was the water right before him of the 5th grade, there was so much of it as well. He ravished in joy. Jianshen did not hesitate at all, immediately pulling out a container to collect the water. In the end, he collected half of all the water, just like before, and found a head-sized ball of essence in the center. It was also of the 5th grade. Afterward, Jianshen looked around the top of the mountain, before leaving after not finding anything else. He then looked around the area around the mountain, searching the entire place. He found over 10 heavenly resources that were also of the immortal tier with the sword spirit's help. It's time for me to increase my strength. I can finally reach the 4th layer of the chaotic body. Jianshen brought his hands together as he mumbled to himself. Afterward, he let out the saint artifact, and after calling to Tai Ta, they entered the artifact space together. The saint artifact did not stay revealed outside either. It turned into a golden streak of light as it burrowed into the soil and hid itself deep underground to prevent any sudden encounters with Class 9 Xianhuang beasts. After all, the saint artifact could only resist attacks from saint kings with its defense. Class 9 Xianhuang beasts possessed enough strength to smash it into pieces. Jianshen threw some immortal tier heavenly resources to the white tiger for it to devour in the artifact space, causing it to enter another slumber, which had not occurred for quite some time. After that, he and Tai Ta chose places to enter seclusion. Jianshen tidied his cultivation resources in a cold and gloomy room. The resources he had to reach the 4th layer were the violet cloud peaches that were equivalent to 2 Class 9 monster cores, 1 energy crystal from a Class 9 Xianhuang beast, 3 of the 5 Class 9 monster cores he had obtained from the Heaven's Incense School, and many more Class 7 and 8 monster cores. I require a 3rd-grade violet cloud peach to reach the 4th layer of the chaotic body. I don't have it, but I do have a few at the 1st grade. It's just enough combined with the 4 Class 9 monster cores I have on me. However, the violet cloud peach can only be consumed once every century, so if I eat it now, I have to wait 100 years before I can eat a second one. I might end up coming across violet cloud peaches of higher grades within the next few days, so I can't just waste this opportunity that arises once every 100 years. Whatever, I won't eat the violet cloud peach this time. I'll use the Class 7 and 8 monster cores to replace it. Jianshen thought before pulling out all his high-class monster cores and the Class 7 and 8 energy crystals he had obtained from killing Xianhuang beasts. He placed them all on the ground and began to cultivate. Jianshen first began to absorb the energy crystals he had obtained from the Xianhuang beasts. He discovered that they were far greater than monster cores of the same class. Not only was the energy inside them much purer, they also lacked the violent factor that was in the energy of monster cores, which made absorption even easier. On the Tianyuan continent, no one dared to easily absorb the energy of monster cores to cultivate, mainly because of the violent factor hidden within both low and high-class monster cores. Not only would it wreak havoc on the body if it managed to hide itself, it would also bring great problems to one's cultivation in the future, which might even result in death by implosion if they were severe. As a result, all the people of the Tianyuan continent needed to consolidate their strength after absorbing a certain amount of energy from the monster cores, as well as purge the violent factors within them. This process would take quite some time. The reason why Jianshen could ignore this violent factor in monster cores was all because of the azulate sword spirits. They allowed Jianshen to absorb the energy without any worry whatsoever. Yet, the energy crystals from the Xianhuang beasts lacked this violence that monster cores had. So even if the people of the Tianyuan continent continuously absorbed the energy, it would not leave any future problems. Jianshen immediately rejoiced after understanding this. He thought of his friends and family, All he needed was to bring back plenty of these energy crystals, and they could rapidly strengthen themselves. Once I break through to the 4th layer, I'll definitely hunt more Xianhuang beasts and collect even more energy crystals. Jianchen secretly made up his mind. When he had entered the Xianhuang microcosm before, he had originally planned to leave immediately after he had collected the materials for the sea goddess. But now that he discovered the benefits of the Xianhuang microcosm, he was tempted to stay in there for a few years, or possibly never leave. Other than this, Jianchen could sense extremely thin traces of Xianhuang qi within the energy crystals. However, he could not absorb the energy at all. All he could do was let it dissipate in the air, as even the sword spirits could do nothing about it. Master, there's no point in trying to absorb the Xianhuang qi. Qing Sua and I have existed for countless years, and we've never heard of someone who can absorb it. Although it's on the same level as the chaotic force, no one can control it in all of history. There are a few practitioners of the chaotic body in the immortals world, but they are all the same as Master, where they cultivate their chaotic body after birth. Innate chaotic bodies are even rarer. Several hundreds of thousands or even millions of years can pass without the birth of a single innate chaotic body, said Ziying. Chapter 1273. How Use Might. 1. Jianchen could only give up on the thought of absorbing Xianhuang qi with the sword spirit's explanation, and thus began to focus on cultivation. 100,000 kilometers away from the Jessen kingdom stood a city completely constructed out of a valuable tungsten alloy. The city was not one of the 7 capital cities, but it was great enough to stand on equal ground with them on the Tianyuan continent. From certain aspects, the city was countless times more valuable than any single capital of the continent. This was because the city walls were completely created from tungsten alloy. Tungsten alloy was an extremely valuable metal on the continent. It was extremely tough, and was equivalent to 10 times its weight in purple coins. Probably no one could calculate just how much of the metal went into building the city, so just the city walls had reached an astonishing price. When it was first being built, many large organizations on the continent had indeed cast their greedy eyes upon such a valuable city, and even interested a few ancient clans. However, since the owner of the city was just far too reputed, all of them gave up on the thought of taking the city for themselves in the end. The city was Flame City, which belonged to the Flame Mercenaries. As the people who possessed the most authority, and were responsible for every single matter in the mercenaries, Bai Lian and Yu currently converse casually in the luxurious city lord's estate, standing in the center of the city, like an imperial palace. They would laugh pleasantly from time to time. In order to prevent the escaped Saint Kings of the underworld sect from taking revenge on the Flame Mercenaries, Yu watched over the city with the bright moon divine hall. The silver-white divine hall had shrunk to the size of a regular palace and stood silently in the city lord's estate. Contained inside it was Fairy Hao Yu's soul. She would discover any Saint King who entered the estate as soon as they set foot in it. Originally, Fairy Hao Yu would have never watched over a mercenary group that had nothing to do with her, because of her status and her pride. But she only ended up agreeing after considering the fact that the request originated from Jianchen, and that she would need his help in the future. Hence, she would temporarily watch over the city. The divine hall was very eye-catching in between the estate's dark bricks and red tiles. Even during the day, the clear moonlight from the divine hall could still be seen. 1,000 meters around the divine hall had also become a forbidden zone, where both the patrolling guards and the upper echelon of the mercenaries could not set foot. At this moment, the space above Flame City violently began to distort. A while later, a space gate quickly formed and many Saint Kings emerged from it. They stared at the city beneath them. They were the 9 Saint Kings that had hurried over from Mercenary City. They were led by 4 Saint Kings from the Yuan sect and Yangji sect, while the 5 independent Saint Kings followed along to borrow the divine hall. As soon as the 9 Saint Kings arrived above the city, their vast presences surged out of them, engulfing the entire city. A few weaker mercenaries immediately vomited blood from the presences and instantly paled. At that moment, The orderly city turned into a huge mess from the presences of the 9 Saint Kings. The streets became strewn with people. Although they were not dead, all of them had become heavily injured from the vast presences. Their organs had all ruptured while a few structures in the city had collapsed. Bai Hai hurriedly flew from the city lord's estate with the other saint rulers of the flame mercenaries. They became extremely stern when they saw the 9 Saint Kings hovering in the air. Bai Lian stood as well while talking to Yu Yu. She looked outside and asked in a heavy voice, "What's happening?" Yu Yu grabbed her arm and comforted her. "Sister Bai Lian, don't worry. I'll support you with everything." "Yep. Yu Yu, have a look. People who can give off such great presences are probably Saint Kings. I'm afraid that great-grandfather Bai Hai and the others will be in danger," Bai Lian said in a rather flustered manner. She worried for Bai Hai's safety very much. Yu Yu nodded and walked outside as she pulled Bai Lian with her. She had the Bright Moon Divine Hall as a safety measure, so she did not show any fear even when she faced Saint Kings. Fairy Hao Yu sensed the 9 Saint Kings the moment they had reached the city, but she did not do anything. She remained in the Divine Hall and secretly observed the situation outside. Bai Hai flew into the air with the other saint rulers and stopped at the same altitude as the 9 Saint Kings. He clasped his hands at them and asked in an extremely hostile manner, "May I ask who you are, and why you have come to my flame mercenaries to make trouble? Do you think that there are no Saint Kings in the city?" The gazes of the 9 Saint Kings grew cold with what Bai Hai had said, but the 4 Saint Kings from the Protector clans said nothing. They understood the flame mercenaries extremely well. Although it was not powerful overall, they possessed a captain who even Protector clans did not dare to offend. They could put the saint rulers in their place, but they dared not to harm them easily. Not to mention, the person right before them was Jian Chen's great-grandfather. They could not guarantee that Jian Chen would not go to their Protector clans and cause trouble with the 3 magical beasts in his wrath if they touched him. However, just because the Saint Kings from the Yuan and Yangji sects dared not to touch Bai Hai did not mean that the 5 other independent Saint Kings would not do the same. They did not understand the flame mercenaries, so with their prideful nature, they were very displeased by how a mere saint ruler had not only failed to greet them politely, and had even questioned them in hostility. Immediately, a short 4th heavenly layer old man took a step, and immediately used his presence to press onto Bai Hai. He sneered, "So what if you have Saint Kings? You're just a mere saint ruler, and you dare to speak so rudely to the 9 of us? I can kill you, and even if you have a Saint King present, they'll need to apologize to the 9 of us." With that, the short old man hurled his palm at Bai Hai. He had used his abilities as a Saint King with his palm strike. With a surge of energy, the space in front froze and forcibly immobilized Bai Hai. However, what he failed to notice was that Bai Hai was clenching a rock in his right hand when he had arrived. The rock was one of the 3 flaming jadites the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union had gifted Jian Shen, and it had already been fully charged with energy by Rui Jin. It could deal an attack from a Saint King at great perfection. Bai Hai knew that the people had not come with good intentions, and that there were 9 Saint Kings in total, so he had secretly prepared a flaming jadeite in his hand just in case. The moment the short old man attacked Bai Hai used a silver of saint force within him to activate the rock. Immediately, an extremely violent ripple of energy emerged from the flaming jadeite, instantaneously breaking through the frozen space. Bai Hai regained his freedom, so with a wave of his hand, he threw the flaming jadeite. Chapter 1274. Hao Yu's Might 2. The flaming jadeite shone with a piercing light as it shot toward the short old man with an extremely great energy. Wherever it passed, the surrounding space shook violently, forming pitch-black cracks from the terrifying amount of energy spewing from the rock. The short old man paled in fright. He shivered because of how powerful the energy from the stone was. It was equivalent to a strike from a Saint King at great perfection. So how could it be possible for him to resist it with his strength as a 4th heavenly layer Saint King? Even if he did manage to resist it, he would end up heavily injured. What is this? Has a Saint King at great perfection deposited a sliver of his power in this saint ruler? Impossible. A Saint King's power stored in another person's body would never produce such a terrifying disturbance. The short old man was no longer able to remain as composed as before. He abruptly shot back and pleaded for help from the 8 other Saint Kings in worry. Everyone, let's block this attack together, or all of us will be in for more than what we bargained for. The other 8 Saint Kings became stern as well. None of them had thought that Bai Hai would possess such a great item, where it could erupt suddenly and produce such a great strike. Any single one of them would become heavily injured if they took on the strike all by themselves. Before the short old man had even asked for help, the 8 Saint Kings already planned on working together and blocking the strike of the flaming jadeite, because the short old man stood right in front of them. The rock shot toward the short old man as well as them, so trying to remain uninvolved in this matter was impossible. Vast amounts of energy surged from the 8 Saint Kings. The 9 of them all produced a palm strike that was sent at the flaming jadeite at the same time. The energies collided with the rock as it shook up the surrounding space. Boom! With a deafening explosion, it seemed like brilliant fireworks had been set off above the city from how dazzling it was. Violent energy ripples rocked the surroundings and surged out. A portion of the energy traveled toward Flame City. Bai Hai and the Saint Rulers' expressions all drastically changed. The ripples of energy erupted from a clash between Saint Kings, so they were extremely powerful. All they could do before the ripples was protect themselves. They could not prevent them from reaching the city. If it hit the city below, all the weaker people would become heavily injured or end up dead. Yu clearly understood this as well while witnessing everything unfold. Her eyes shone with an icy cold gaze as the moon god scepter appeared silently in her hand. The fist-sized jewel embedded in the scepter shone with hazy moonlight. Yu swung the scepter, and an extremely pure strand of moonlight force immediately began to radiate from the crystal, forming a weak-looking barrier over the city. The barrier immediately began to violently shake when the energy ripples struck it, but fortunately, the barrier only received some energy ripples, and not the direct attacks of the Saint Kings. The barrier successfully blocked the energy. When the rampaging energy in the sky finally settling down, the barrier of moonlight force silently disappeared as well. Yu looked at the exquisite scepter with a pained look. She could clearly feel that there was not much energy left in the scepter. The energy deposited in the scepter by Master is becoming less and less. Yu sighed inside, but flames of fury quickly ignited. She stared at the 9 Saint Kings in a very hostile manner. If she did not make it in time just then, Flame City would have suffered heavy casualties. Because of the 9 of them, the 9 Saint Kings hovered in the air with sunken faces. Every single one of them had emerged unscathed. Half of them were beyond the 5th heavenly layer, and 2 of them were of the 7th heavenly layer. So the attack from the flaming jadeite had failed to harm them with their teamwork. Heavy killing intent filled the eyes of the short old man that Bai Hai had targeted. He was a mighty Saint King, yet he had almost been injured by a mere Saint Ruler. Even though he had no idea what the Saint Ruler had used to deal such a shocking and terrifying attack, he still found it to be a permanent disgrace to his name. Very good. I never thought that after spending over 1,000 years as a hermit, there would actually be a few more people who aren't afraid of dying on the Tianyuan continent. You're a mere Saint Ruler, yet you dare to look down on Saint Kings? Just this will result in irreconcilable consequences. Kid, I don't care who's behind you. I'm killing you for sure today, said the short old man with a heavy tone. He had thought that Bai Hai would definitely have quite a powerful Saint King supporting him, since he could produce something as terrifying as the flaming jadeite. But he had come this time in the glorious name of saving the continent. The protector clans in Mercenary City were not the only ones who stood on his side. All the Saint Kings of the Tianyuan continent did. He obviously felt no fear at all. Don't you dare. If you even touch great-grandfather Bai Hai, none of the 9 of you will be leaving Flame City today. A cold voice rang out from below as soon as the short old man finished speaking. Yu was enveloped by a layer of clear moonlight force as she quickly flew over from the city lord's estate. At the same time, the bright moon divine hall rose up and hovered above her. Yu's threat immediately caused the 9 Saint Kings' gazes to grow cold. They all became utterly furious. The 9 of them had come with such a powerful party to borrow the Bright Moon Divine Hall. Yet before they could even speak of the request, their dignity had been trampled over by a saint ruler, almost reducing them to a mess. Now a woman who was not even a saint ruler threatened them, which completely shamed all of them. A red-robed independent saint king coldly snorted. Just as he was about to step forward, he was stopped by a great elder of the Yangji sect. He said through a communication technique, "Brother Halu, we've come to borrow the Bright Moon Divine Hall this time, not to cause trouble. Let's not waste too much time. Leave the matter to me." The great elder was initially extremely willing for the 5 independent saint kings to teach the flame mercenaries a lesson, but he worried that he would be dragged into it, so he could only give up on that thought. Meanwhile, the matter of borrowing the Bright Moon Divine Hall was for guarding the seal beneath Mercenary City. It was something done and thought for the entire world, so it was irrefutable. As a result, the great elder could take it without any worry. Even if Jianchen came looking for him later on, he would have the support of all the experts across the entire continent. He was obviously not afraid. Jianchen, our Yangji sect indeed does not have the power to deal with you, but we can destroy the Bright Moon Divine Hall when the world of Forsaken Saints invades the Tianyuan continent. As long as we can weaken you slightly, it's nothing even if we have to endure some pressure. If you really dare to use this to make trouble for us, we won't even need to act personally. The entire continent will become your enemy," he sneered inside. He was tempted to take the Bright Moon Divine Hall and leave immediately when he thought up to there. He no longer hesitated. Suppressing his anger for Yu, he coldly and emotionlessly said, "You must be Yu. Our Tianyuan continent is currently facing a danger that directly affects its fate. There is a tunnel to another world sealed beneath Mercenary City, and the seal has been destroyed now. The experts of the other world can invade us at any moment. The 9 of us have come to borrow your Divine Hall, in order to save the world, by blocking the tunnel beneath the city. Time is tight right now, so please hand over the Divine Hall immediately, so we can take it back to Mercenary City with us." Yu sneered. "The Bright Moon Divine Hall isn't mine. It's my master's. If you want to borrow it, you should ask my master instead." The great elder from the Yangji sect immediately became speechless. In reality, he had considered that Yu would decline, and thus, had thought up of many reasons and excuses to combat this. He had even made up his mind to use force, but he had never thought that Yu would respond like that, to have him directly ask Fairy Hao Yu for the Divine Hall. The 4 Saint Kings from the Protector clans knew that Fairy Hao Yu was not dead, that her soul had always existed, and that it remained within the Divine Hall. Other than the great prestige she had left behind in the past, she was just a paper tiger to them, relying on the toughness of the Bright Moon Divine Hall to guard her soul. However, the 5 independent Saint Kings did not know anything about Fairy Yu's soul. The short old man snickered. "Fairy Hao Yu has already been dead for several tens of thousand years. You actually want us to go find the dead Fairy Hao Yu to borrow the Divine Hall? This is a huge joke. Everyone, guarding the tunnel is an extremely pressing matter. We cannot waste any more time. Let's directly take the Divine Hall and leave." As soon as the old man finished talking, the Divine Hall above Yu suddenly began to shine with an intense silver-white moonlight. It rapidly expanded, becoming a huge, majestic palace in a single moment, looming over their heads like a dark cloud. Who said I was dead?" An icy cold voice rang from the Divine Hall as a huge, illusionary projection of a person appeared above it. Her clothes fluttered in the breeze with her otherworldly disposition. It was Fairy Hao Yu, but her face was blurry and indistinct. The old man who had said that she was dead just before revealed a different expression. He could clearly feel the extremely powerful soul of Fairy Hao Yu, such that his soul was suppressed to the point where he could not move it. Hey, are you Fairy Hao Yu?" The short old man was utterly astounded as disbelief flooded his face. This Fairy Yu's soul is so powerful. No wonder she can survive until now without her soul dissipating. The Saint Kings from the 2 Protector clans were all shocked inside, but they felt no fear. With just her powerful soul, Fairy Hao Yu was not enough to pose any threat to them. They had even guessed that she probably could not let her soul leave the divine hall. Fairy Hao Yu coldly stared at the 9 of them and heavily said, "I've already sensed the shocking changes in Mercenary City. The earthen spirit of Mercenary City has already reached returnance in strength. So even if she can't repel them, it won't change anything even if you take my divine hall away." A great elder from the Yuan sect said, "The Bright Moon Divine Hall is the only divine hall that can resist attacks from Saint Emperors other than the one in Mercenary City. It doesn't matter if the divine hall can actually block the seal. We need to give it a try. Fairy Hao Yu, please allow us to borrow it." With that, a powerful presence radiated from his body. It surged toward the Bright Moon Divine Hall. Chapter 1275. Hao Yu's Might 3. Fairy Hao Yu's face grew colder. The actions of the great elder from the Yuan sect had infuriated her. She coldly said, "You sure are bold to disrespect me as a mere Saint King. Are you trying to take my divine hall forcefully? Even if Saint Emperors come personally, they'd have to return with nothing, let alone you Saint Kings. I will give you one last opportunity. Leave immediately, or don't blame me for not treating you courteously." The great elder could not help but laugh aloud at Fairy Hao Yu's threat. He said, "Fairy Hao Yu, I would obviously be as weak as an ant in your eyes if you had your former strength, but it's a pity that you're just a soul now. Can I ask what you can do as just a soul? Your soul might be very strong, but I think you can't leave the divine hall, or it'll quickly disperse into the surroundings." Fairy Hao Yu's cold eyes shone with heavy killing intent. To think that someone with her prideful nature would be looked down upon by a Saint King, who was not even equal to an ant in her eyes. The flames of fury began to rage inside her. Her killing intent rapidly increased. Seeing how Fairy Hao Yu had reacted, the great elder confirmed his suspicions. He could not help but laugh freely even more. "I know you've cast down quite a few formations in the divine hall, which can even trap Saint Emperors, but as long as we don't enter the divine hall, these formations won't be able to pose any threat to us. We've come this time in consideration for all the lives on the continent. I hope you can understand." After saying that, he looked at the 8 people behind him and said, "Everyone, time is tight right now. We can't waste too much time in regards to the matter of the seal. So for the sake of all the lives on the continent, we cannot think of so many matters. Let's immediately work together to trap the divine hall and forcefully take it to Mercenary City." Without any hesitation, the 8 Saint Kings behind him all flew toward the divine hall. At the same time, they froze the space around Bai Hai and the other saint rulers once more, trapping them there. Below, Bai Lian watched as the 9 Saint Kings flew toward the divine hall with an ugly expression. The light in her eyes flickered as she hesitated. She also possessed a flaming jadeite that could deal an attack from a Saint King at great perfection in her space ring, as well as quite a few quaking thunders that Jian Shen had left with her. The quaking thunders were not of the same quality as the flaming jadeite, but they could also deal a Saint King's attack. She was currently hesitating over whether to use them or not. When Jian Shen had first handed the items to Bai Lian, he had said to not use them so easily unless they faced complete danger. However, Bai Lian also understood that in the current situation, even if she used her flaming jadeite and all her quaking thunders, it would not necessarily be enough to deal with the 9 Saint Kings. The flaming jadeite was no longer enough to pose a threat to them if they worked together. The 9 Saint Kings had already arrived in front of the Bright Moon Divine Hall. Every single one of them pulsed with energy, since they were planning to trap the Divine Hall and forcefully take it away with them. But at this moment the sky began to change. A huge, round moon slowly rose up from the Divine Hall and glowed with gentle and clear moonlight. This was not the real moon, but a projection created through moonlight force and a technique. "Since you all want to die, allow me to assist you. I might just be a soul now, but I'm still not someone that a few ants can trample over." Fairy Hao Yu's voice rang out from the Divine Hall. Her figure vanished, having completely disappeared into the Divine Hall. The 9 Saint Kings revealed different expressions. They discovered that they had been trapped by an invisible force when the moon rose from the Divine Hall. It was not through the abilities of a Saint King, nor through the abilities of a saint emperor. It used a method that they did not understand. They had even lost control over the vast energy within them. What's this? God damn it, she's clearly just a soul now, so how can she trap us? Even if she was once a peak saint emperor, it's impossible for her to do something like this. The four great elders were greatly shocked inside. Only now did they realize that Fairy Haoyu was not as simple as they had thought. Peak saint emperors had appeared in the protector clans before, but according to ancient records, they would not be able to use such powerful abilities after they lost their bodies and has been reduced to a soul. Fairy Haoyu, what did you do to us? An independent saint king bellowed at the Bright Moon Divine Hall. His voice was forceful, but it clearly lacked confidence. He was unable to determine what the force was even with his knowledge and experience. Don't get flustered, everyone. She's probably used some ancient secret technique, but using this must be extremely exhaustive for her. She definitely can't last for long, said a great elder of the Yangji sect. He tried to control all his energy within him to break free from the mysterious force that trapped him, but he was unable to utilize anything no matter how hard he tried. At this moment, their expressions took a drastic turn for the worse. They paled in that instant as shock filled their eyes. They could actually feel their energy uncontrollably drift out of their bodies before being absorbed by the Divine Hall. Oh no, Fairy Haoyu's currently absorbing our energy. An independent Saint King cried out while strewn between shock and anger. The 8 other Saint Kings were completely shocked as well. They had discovered that they could only watch helplessly as their energy was siphoned away by the Divine Hall. Let alone stopping the process, they did not even have the ability to flee. This was an extremely terrifying matter to them, because once all their energy was drained away, their strength would become severely limited. Fairy Haoyu, stop. Stop. Fairy Haoyu, stop. You're becoming an enemy of the continent by doing this. Fairy Haoyu, please show mercy. The Tianyuan continent is about to face a huge disaster. So we should all work together and use everything we have to fend off the world of forsaken saints. We shouldn't be going at each other's lives here. At that moment, all 9 of them had become absolutely frantic. They no longer possessed their haughtiness as they all pleaded. Their voices became much gentler. Didn't you just say before that I can't do anything to you as a soul? Do you really think that you can act as you wish on the Tianyuan continent with your strength as Saint Kings, and that no one will stop you? I'll show you that I can kill you easily even if I'm just a soul now. Fairy Haoyu's icy cold voice rang from the Divine Hall. It was filled with killing intent. Fairy Haoyu, please stay your hand. Our protector Yuan sect with show immense gratitude. A great elder from the Ian sect pleaded, but he failed to sense that the wrinkles on his face were rapidly increasing. He was currently aging at an unbelievable rate. You want to deter me just by using the name of a protector clan? What a joke. What do you think the protector clans are on the Tianyuan continent are? If I had my body, I could wipe you out with a flick of my finger. I already gave you a chance before, but you were seeking death yourselves. It's no longer my fault. The 9 of you will be the first group of people who die from the formations of the Divine Hall after it's been created. This formation is called lunar years. Fairy Haoyu coldly replied. Lunar years. The Saint Kings became a little confused after learning the name. They understood what a lunar year was extremely well. From certain aspects, it was time, a label for time. However, they did not understand why she had named the formation lunar years. Arg. No. Impossible, impossible. Suddenly, an independent Saint King cried out. He stared at the 8 other Saint Kings in disbelief as shock filled his eyes. He had just witnessed something too unrealistic to be true. The 8 Saint Kings all looked at him, and all of their eyes narrowed. They became filled with disbelief as well, because they had all discovered that the other Saint Kings had become extraordinarily old in just such a short amount of time, and their age was increasing at a visible rate. Our life force is rapidly being drained away. Impossible, this is impossible. This isn't an ability that a Saint Emperor can possess. Even Origin Realm experts can't do something so great. A Saint King cried out in shock. His face became sheet white and completely drained of blood. Lunar years. Lunar years. This is the passage of lunar years, the passage of time. No wonder this formation has this name. A Saint King mumbled in dejection. He was ashen and understood that he probably could not escape from this disaster today. None of them possessed the power to stop the formation from leeching away their life force. At this moment, a seventh heavenly layer independent Saint King's eyes became glassy. His entire body shriveled up, having been reduced to a bag of bones. His soul had already been extinguished. He was the oldest member in the ground, and did not have much time left anyway. It had all been drained away in that short moment, becoming the first Saint King to die to Fairy Hao Yu's formation. The hair of the 8 other people grayed as their wrinkles bundled up. Their bodies shriveled at a visible rate. Just earlier, some of them were young men who seemed to be in their prime, yet they had become old now, having been eroded away by time. All the people in Flame City watched from below, as if the most wondrous thing had happened in the world. The glorious Saint Kings just before had actually all become crippled by age. The disparity between before and now was so great that many of them had failed to return to their senses. Even Yu, Bai Hai, and the other saint rulers were the same. Bang! Suddenly, a muffled sound rang through the air as one of the Saint Kings from the Yangji sect exploded into a mist of blood. He paid a self-cannibalizing price to use a secret technique in order to flee, turning into a red streak of light that rapidly ran away. Virtually at the same time, the 3 other Saint Kings from Protector clans had used the same secret techniques as well. They paid an extremely heavy price, leaving behind the 4 independent Saint Kings in the end. It was not because the independent Saint Kings did not have any abilities to flee, but the abilities they possessed could not compare to what the Protector clans possessed. What they knew was not enough to break free from the formation. I never thought you would know this secret technique. It's one of the more commonly seen escape techniques in the Saints' world. I didn't think that you'd actually flee while I was slightly negligent. However, you underestimate the formation far too much. Do you really think that you can escape death just by fleeing like that? Fairy Hao Yu mumbled to herself in the bright moon divine hall as scorn flickered through her eyes. Chapter 1276. The borrowing of Emperor armaments other than the 4 great elders from the Protector clans who knew fleeing secret techniques. The other 5 independent Saint Kings died in Flame City after their life force had been drained away. Hao Yu was not a merciful person. Even after the Saint Kings plead time and time again, she still killed them. Everyone in the city had become shocked by what had happened above. The Flame Mercenaries had demonstrated great strength once again, causing all the members of the mercenaries to become extremely excited after witnessing such a scene. Their blood started to boil. Originally, they had thought that their captain was extraordinary enough, but now, Fairy Hao Yu seemed to become even more extraordinary than him. She had managed to kill off these glorious Saint Kings in just a short moment. After ending the lives of the independent Saint Kings, the bright moon divine hall returned to how it had been before. The huge moon hovering above slowly disappeared, and even the structure itself shrank back to the size of an ordinary palace. It descended into the city lord's estate once again, standing silently like a novel princess. Yu worried about Fairy Hao Yu's current condition, so she entered the divine hall as soon as possible. Bai Lian became busy as well as she passed down various orders. The vast presences from the 9 Saint Kings had reduced the city into a mess, resulting in countless injured people. There were many things she needed to do to cope with the aftermath. Meanwhile, the space rings of the 5 independent Saint Kings ended up with Bai Lian. Vice City Lord, we might as well hang the corpses of the 5 Saint Kings on the city walls to demonstrate the might of our flame mercenaries. At the same time, we can send out a warning to all the various forces on the Tianyuan continent to tell them that even when our captain is not present, we're still not to be trifled with, a middle-aged man said to Bai Lian. He spoke extremely politely. He was also one of the people who managed the mercenaries. Bai Lian shook her head. They're still Saint Kings. We should get people to bury them instead to help them retain some dignity. Yes, Vice City Lord. The middle-aged man replied politely before immediately ordering a group of people to carry the 5 corpses out of the city to find a suitable place to be buried. Fairy Hao Yu's illusionary figure sat on a piece of jade in the divine hall. The piece of jade gave off pure and clear moonlight force. It was no simple piece of jade, since it had originated from the moon. Yu asked about her in concern from right in front. Master, are you fine? Fairy Hao Yu faintly smiled and said, My dear disciple, you don't need to worry about your master. I may just be a soul now, but I'm not as weak as you've imagined. I've cast down many formations both inside and outside the divine hall. These formations are far more powerful than what the people of the Tianyuan continent can even imagine. Their strength may be restricted by the limited materials, but they can easily block attacks from Saint Emperors. The lunar years is one of them. It's just that using these formations takes up quite a lot of energy. Although this can be replenished by absorbing the energies of others, it still can't make up for when whole formations get used up. As a result, you can't rely on your master for everything in the future. Working hard to increase your own strength is the most important. Yes, master. I will definitely work even harder on cultivating. Yu firmly answered. All the Saint Kings from various parts of the continent were gathered in a majestic hall within the miniature world of Mercenary City. They all sat in a circle as they discussed how to stop the world of Forsaken Saints. The number of people gathered there had already reached into the 400s. They were all the Saint Kings of the continent. Although the Divine Hall of Mercenary City is extremely tough, we still don't know whether it can stop the reciprocity experts from the world of Forsaken Saints. And on the continent, the Emperor armaments of the 10 Protector clans are extremely powerful. They are difficult to control even when several Saint Kings work together. So I suggest that the Protector clans bring all their Emperor armaments here and pass them on to Elder Tianjian, who's a Saint Emperor to control. The Great Elder must be able to display even greater strength. May I ask what you think of this? The Grand Elder of Mercenary City slowly inquired as he looked at the people of the 10 Protector clans. We, the Heaven's Incense School, do not mind. We are willing to temporarily hand over our Emperor armament to the Great Elder. The schoolmaster of the Heaven's Incense School was the first one to agree to the Grand Elder's suggestion. The Pavilion Master of the Pure Heart Pavilion pondered slightly before saying, Great Elder Tianjian has already reached Saint Emperor, and his strength is now incomparable to any one of us. We obviously do not mind handing over the Emperor armament of the Pure Heart Pavilion, except our Emperor armament is rather special. It's slightly different than the 9 other clans. It can only be controlled by those who practice the cultivation method of the Pure Heart Pavilion. As a result, we may have to disappoint the Grand Elder. A Great Elder from the Moyuan clan said, Grand Elder, the power of the Emperor armaments have reached an extremely terrifying level. Even if several Saint Kings control it together, they will suffer a backlash. So probably only Saint Emperors can use them at will. However, can Great Elder Tianjian use so many Emperor armament all by himself? Even if the Great Elder has become a Saint Emperor, he shouldn't be able to control so many Emperor armaments simultaneously. The Great Elder had spoken the doubts of many people present, in particular the people from the Protector clans. They all wondered whether or not Tianjian could control so many Emperor armaments all by himself. After all, they were no ordinary objects. The Grand Elder chuckled. The power of the Emperor armaments from the Protector clans have already reached a level that's enough to terrify all of us. Although the Great Elder has become a Saint Emperor, controlling so many Emperor armaments simultaneously is indeed extremely difficult. However, I am asking to use them for another reason. May I ask what this reason is? Do the Emperor armaments have other uses? A Great Elder from the Heartless School asked. The Grand Elder thought a little before speaking. We have quite a few abilities and secret techniques left behind by the City Lord. These abilities and techniques all possess unpredictable power, and some of them can only be practiced by Saint Emperors. Now that Great Elder Tianjian has become a Saint Emperor, he's already grasped some of the techniques and abilities that only Saint Emperors can learn, and one of them just happens to allow him to use the Emperor armaments of the Protector clans to cast down an extremely powerful ancient killing formation. The formation can activate the potential power within the Emperor armaments to deal terrifying attacks. Everyone think about it. If we can cast down this killing formation at the entrance of the tunnel, it will have a shocking effect. With that, the eyes of many people present lit up. At the same time, they were secretly shocked. The heritage of Mercenary City was actually no weaker than the 10 protector clans. They actually possessed such great abilities and techniques that only Saint Emperors could learn them. Protecting the Tianyuan continent was the original responsibility of us protector clans. Since the world of Forsaken Saints is so powerful, that is more than enough of a reason for us all to work together. We can't forsake the continent for our personal needs. Our Shenxiao sect is willing to lend our Emperor armament. Our Patian sect is also willing to lend our Emperor armament. Our Moyuan clan is also willing to lend our Emperor armament. Our Yangji sect is willing to lend our Emperor armament. The Yuan sect is willing to lend out their Emperor armament. The various clans all expressed their thoughts. In the blink of an eye, 8 clans agreed to lend out their Emperor armaments, with only the Tyrant's Blade School and Changyang clan left. The Grand Elder immediately looked at the Saint Kings of the Tyrant's Blade School and Changyang Zhu Xiao. The Saint Kings from the Tyrant's Blade School hesitated before one of them reluctantly said, "Our founding ancestor, Guihai Dao, has already returned. The Emperor armament is currently in his control, so we have to decline lending it out. However, we believe that the Emperor armament will be able to demonstrate even greater power in our founding ancestors' hands." The Tyrant's Blade School originally wanted to hide the return of their founding ancestor, but now that such a great matter had happened on the continent, there was no point in keeping it hidden anymore. At the same time, they had personally witnessed their founding ancestors' strength when the 100 races had invaded. They were confident that even if their ancestor's identity was revealed, no one on the continent could threaten him. This included Saint Emperors. However, the piece of news was like a bolt from the blue to everyone else. They all became stunned and stared at the Saint Kings in disbelief. None of them believed what they said to be real. "What did you say? Your founding ancestor has returned? Xingfeng, what are you blabbering about?" A Saint King who was on good terms with the Tyrant's Blade School replied in shock. He looked at Xingfeng weirdly. Xingfeng also knew that it was very difficult for everyone to believe what he had said. However, he did not explain any further. He nonchalantly answered with, "It doesn't matter if you believe me or not, but we're not going to be lending out our Emperor armament." Many people became confused as soon as they heard what he said. None of them believed that Xingfeng was telling the truth, and that this was just an excuse to avoid lending out the Emperor armament. Even though the excuse was extremely exaggerated to such a level that it was unbelievable, no one delved on the matter. After all, the Emperor armament belonged to the Tyrant's Blade School. If they were unwilling, the rest of them could not force them. The Grand Elder then looked at Changyang Zhu Xiao. Among the 10 protector clans, there was only the Changyang clan left to express their thoughts. Chapter 1277. The Changyang clan breaks free. Changyang Zhu Xiao raised an eyebrow and nonchalantly said, "Our Zhu branch has broken away from the Protector clan. We no longer have anything to do with the Protector clan. Yin Xiao and I obviously haven't come as representatives of the Changyang Protector clan. There's no need for the Grand Elder to ask us members of the Zhu branch about borrowing the Emperor armament." Everyone present was greatly surprised by what Changyang Zhu Xiao had said. Many of them showed disbelief. Many of the Saint Kings had a certain understanding of the Changyang clan, of the 10 protector clans. It was divided into the Zhu, Yuan and Qing branches, and in the countless years it had existed, the 3 branches had always been on good terms. Even if a few disagreements arose every now and then, it would not threaten the stability of the clan. Yet now, Changyang Zhu Xiao had actually said that the Zhu branch had left the Protector clan, and that they no longer had anything to do with the Protector clan. Many found this difficult to believe. "Changyang Zhu Xiao, is that true? Has your Zhu branch really left the Protector clan?" The Grand Elder asked sternly. This was something significant. "Changyang Zhu Xiao, you can't be joking, right? The 3 branches have been on good terms for over 1,000,000 years. Since ancient times, All three branches have acted in unison. So why have you completely fallen out now all of a sudden? A ruddy old man sitting beside Changyang Zushao asked. He was a great elder from the Moyuan clan, and was on rather good terms with Changyang Zushao. At this moment, everyone present turned their gazes to Changyang Zushao and Changyang Zuyanshao. The Saint Kings from the Yuan sect and Yangji sect were particularly eager to hear the whole story, as they rejoiced inside. They were extremely willing to see the Changyang clan be ripped apart, resulting in a great decrease in strength. Changyang Zushao remained expressionless. This matter had hurt him very much, so he heavily replied, "How can I be joking about something so significant? I am obviously telling the truth. Our Zhu branch no longer has any connection with the Changyang protector clan." The room immediately fell silent, but all the people had already begun to accept the reality of the Zhu branch's departure. Although this was a shocking piece of news on the Tianyuan continent, it was not enough to affect them. However, many people realized that the Changyang clan's strength had greatly decreased with the changes. They would definitely fall off the throne as the strongest protector clan, and might even end up as the weakest protector clan out of all of them. Many people from the other clans celebrated inside. Since the Zhu branch had broken away from the Changyang clan, may I ask why there is no one from the Qing and Yuan branch present representing the Changyang clan? A Saint Kings from a protector clan asked out of curiosity. The Grand Elder looked around, and indeed, he failed to find the people of the protector Changyang clan. As a result, he said to a Saint King beside him, "Sixth Elder, I will trouble you to visit the Changyang clan. Please invite them to our city, so we can discuss the countermeasures against the world of forsaken saints." The sixth elder of Mercenary City immediately stood up and clasped his fist at everyone. He clearly said, "Everyone, I shall be dismissing myself temporarily." Afterward, he directly left the miniature world. Although the protector Changyang clan was extremely far away from Mercenary City, it would only take a Saint King a few seconds to traverse the distance. The sixth elder returned in less than 5 minutes and sternly informed everyone, "Grand Elder, I've visited the Changyang clan and discovered that it's been sealed. Not only is it impossible to enter, the people inside cannot come out either. All methods of communication are useless as well." "What?" The Grand Elder's expression changed as he immediately stood up. Even all the Saint Kings there were greatly shocked. A mighty protector clan had been sealed, locked up in their miniature world. This was just far too astounding to everyone present. "Sixth Elder, is that true? The Changyang clan has actually been sealed up in their miniature world? They're a protector clan for goodness sake. Just who on the current continent has such abilities? Even the Path Lord of Carnal Desires can't do something like this," said an independent Saint King. The Grand Elder did not probe into the matter further. He stared deeply at Changyang Zushao and Changyang Zuyanshao. "Changyang Zushao, our Tianyuan continent is currently facing a great danger. Although I don't know just what's happened to your Changyang clan, we just happen to be in need of people. We want to break through the seal. Do the two of you have any objections?" At this moment, a minute change occurred in the gazes toward Changyang Zushao and Changyang Zuyanshao. There was admiration and disdain. Many of them had connected the matter to the Zhu branch since they had broken away. Changyang Zushao gently sighed. He knew that there was probably quite a few people who misunderstood the Zhu branch, so he needed to explain. "It's all because of the saint's fruit. When Jianshen obtained the saint's fruit back then, Changyang Qingyan wanted to take it for himself, resulting in never-before-seen internal strife. Completely angered, Jianshen worked with the 3 magical beasts to seal up the Changyang clan. This matter has always pained me the most. If you want to break the seal and free the people from the 2 branches, our Zhu branch obviously has no objections." Everyone immediately understood what had happened with Changyang Zuzhao's explanation, but they were once again shocked by Jianshen and the 3 magical beasts' extraordinary methods of doing things. They could actually seal up a protector clan. It would be difficult for even Saint Emperors to achieve something so extraordinary. This was because every single protector clan possessed methods to deal with Saint Emperors. That was exactly what I thought. Changyang Qingyan is just far too greedy. When the fight over the saint's fruit occurred, he did not contribute much at all. So just why does Jianshan have to hand over the saint's fruit? In my opinion, the Yuan and Qing branches completely deserve it. It's all their own fault, said the Saint King from the Moyuan clan righteously. At this moment, four bloodied and messy Saint Kings staggered into the room. Every single one of them was horrendously old. Their life forces were extremely weak. Oh my God! One of the great elders from the Yangji sect recognized one of the four and immediately paled in fright. He arrived before the four of them with a flash and stared at one of them in disbelief. He cried out, "Jitian, how have you become like this?" "It's Fairy Hao Yu. Fairy Hao Yu's used a formation to siphon away our life force," he weakly replied. Right after he finished speaking, he seemed to have lost all his energy, directly falling to the ground. He shriveled at a visible rate, becoming a dry corpse very soon. Afterward, the three other Saint Kings all collapsed as well, suffering the same outcome as the great elder from the Yangji sect. The great elders from the Yangji sect and Yuan sect all revealed extremely ugly expressions. They had already recognized the three other people. They were the Saint Kings they had sent to Flame City to retrieve the Bright Moon Divine Hall. They had never thought that they would fail their mission and lose their lives. Losing two Saint Kings all of a sudden was an extremely heavy loss to both the Yangji sect and Yuan sect. This Fairy Hao Yu has gone too far. It's fine if she doesn't want to lend her Divine Hall, but why did she have to kill our great elders? We cannot let the matter slide, said a Saint King from the Yuan sect painfully. We will definitely come back with an explanation for this matter. All the great elders of the Yangji sect were brimming with killing intent. Losing two Saint Kings weakened their strength by 30%. The Grand Elder of Mercenary City stood up and said in a heavy voice, "Please stay yourselves. The matter at hand is to find a way to deal with the problem of the world of Forsaken Saints. We can look for Fairy Hao Yu for an explanation after we remove the threat of the other world." Correct. We need to get our priorities straight. The world of Forsaken Saints is a huge threat, so please dismiss your enmity with Fairy Hao Yu for now. At the same time, Fairy Hao Yu won't be easy to deal with since she can handle 9 Saint Kings so easily, and she's protected by extraordinary formations. We cannot complicate matters at this time, said the Pavilion Master of the Pure Heart Pavilion. Right now, she was the one who possessed the most prestige aside from the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. The great elders of the two sects silently mulled over the matter, before finally choosing to listen to the Grand Elder and Pavilion Master's suggestions. They now understood Fairy Hao Yu's strength with the outcome of the Saint Kings. Even though she was just a soul, she was not as weak as they had imagined. They needed to group together if they wanted to take revenge. Afterward, the Grand Elder and over 20 Saint Kings from various organizations visited the Changyang clan. At the same time, they sent envoys with valuable gifts to the 100 races, magical beasts and sea race, to inform them of the world of Forsaken Saints. In the miniature world of the Protector Changyang clan, the 5 great elders hovered in the air with sunken faces. They stared in the direction of the World Gate. In the several months they had been trapped there, they had used all they had to attack the seal for every single moment that passed. They had even activated the Emperor armament several times, but they still failed to get through the seal. The seal's strength had completely exceeded their expectations. Even Saint Emperor would struggle to get through this seal. Are we going to be trapped until we pass away? Changyang Qing Juri said with a sunken face. No, there needs to be an extremely great amount of energy to maintain this seal. For every day the seal exists, a portion of its power will be consumed. Once it runs out completely, we'll be able to break through, but we still need to attack the seal continuously for the time being, so we can speed up the consumption and get out earlier. Changyang Qingyun also said with a sunken face. It was an eternal disgrace for them, a mighty protector clan, to be sealed in their own miniature world. Once I break out, I will use everything and anything I have to deal with Jianshan. Changyang Qing Yunfeng also said with a darkened expression. Heavily killing intent filled his eyes. Changyang Qingyun's eyes were also filled with hatred. He said through clenched teeth, once the seal breaks, we'll control the Emperor armament and visit Lore City. We will not let a single member of the Zhu branch go. Changyang Qingyun thought back to when Changyang Zuxiao did everything he could to stop him, and killing intent immediately surged for him. If it were not for Changyang Zuxiao, he probably would have obtained the saint's fruit long ago. Chapter 1278. Friend or Foe? In a desolate mountain range several tens of thousand kilometers from Mercenary City, Changyang Zhu Yinkong and Huang Tianba had both carved out a cave. They currently cultivated in there. They did not pay much attention to the shocking changes of Mercenary City. At that time, several hundred saint kings had gathered, and even the great elder Tianjian, who had become a saint emperor, was present. If the matter could not even be dealt with by all these experts, it was impossible for the two of them, mere saint rulers, to be of help. Their strength increased rapidly with Xiaoling's assistance beneath Mercenary City. It had improved at a tremendous pace. Although they were still saint rulers, they were both at the peak of the 9th heavenly layer, only a single step away from Saint King. The disparity between Saint Ruler and Saint King was extremely large. They had both secretly made up their minds to get through the tough barrier in a single stroke and become Saint Kings. Changyang Zhu Yinkong's talent was far greater than Huang Tianba's talent. The seal that had been planted in his head before forced him to remain as a heaven saint master, so he could not become a saint ruler. Now that the seal was gone, his strength increased at an astonishing rate with Xiaoling's assistance. He had already caught up to Huang Tianba, and with the talent he had displayed, he might even end up reaching Saint King before Huang Tianba. Other than the two of them, even the loyal bodyguard Jian Shun had brought over from the Radiant Saint Master Union. Yang Ling was in the mountain range as well. He was 1,000 kilometers from the two of them. Compared to Huang Tianba and Changyang Zhu Yinkong, Yang Ling's talent was far more ordinary. When Jian Shun had brought him over, he was a 6th cycle heaven saint master, and one who had been like that for many years. However, he was still the same after the period of cultivation in Mercenary City. The difference between Heaven Saint Master and Saint Ruler was so great that it was comparable to a chasm. It was the difference of two major realms of cultivation. A corresponding amount of talent and ability of comprehension was required to become a Saint Ruler. It was not all about cultivating arduously. After leaving the underground of Mercenary City, Ming Dong did not go with them. Instead, he returned to Mercenary City all by himself to check on the current situation there. At the same time, he learned that Jian Shun was in the Sea Realm. Afterward, Ming Dong remained in the city. He continued to cultivate in seclusion in a chamber deep beneath the city. At the same time, Bai Hai and Bai Lian delivered a large pile of high-class monster cores to him. A portion of them came from Jian Shun, while the others came from the 5 independent Saint Kings, who had recently passed away. The 5 great elders hovered beside one another in the sealed miniature space of the Changyang clan. They silently stared at the world gate, as both resentment and anger burned within them, coupled with some helplessness. Bang! Suddenly, a heavy sound rang from the world gate's direction. A stream of ripples appeared in the space around the Wollard gate, causing the surrounding energy of the world to surge. It shocked all the saint rulers within the Changyang clan. The sudden changes of the world gate attracted the attention of the 5 great elders. As soon as it had happened, all of their eyes immediately lit up as they stared in the direction of the world gate with interest. Bang! A second sound rang from the direction of the world gate. Not only was it much louder than before, even the space rippled more violently. Powerful pulses of energy wrapped around the world gate and shook it up. Many saint rulers flew over from all directions, gathering behind the 5 great elders. All of them were dejected and bitter. A 9th heavenly layer saint ruler old man politely asked, "Great elders, may I ask what is happening?" The 5 great elders all remained silent. They stared fixedly in the direction of the world gate with stern expressions. Only until the 3rd bang did their faces finally change. They became extremely excited. "There's people outside attacking the seal. Fantastic! There's someone who's finally discovered that we've been sealed, and they're currently assisting us in breaking through the seal." Changyang Qing Jewelry immediately beamed in happiness. In the time that they had been stuck in the miniature world, they had attempted countless methods to contact people outside, but all of them had failed in the end. The seal that plugged the world gate was extremely powerful and profound. It could stop all methods of communications, and even ancient secret techniques were not strong enough to penetrate the seal. Changyang Qing Yun, Changyang Qing Yinfeng, Changyang Yuan Wuji, and Changyang Yuan Zhenghua became extremely delighted as well. They had waited far too long for this day. Although being trapped here did not threaten their lives, none of them wished to be locked up by someone else. Let's move immediately and attack the seal from the inside. We'll work with the people outside, so it'll be even easier to get through this seal. Changyang Qing Yun immediately called out. The four others nodded simultaneously, and all began to attack the seal with all they had. Immediately, a vast pressure descended from the sky, permeating the entire miniature world. The air seemed to have froze while all the energy of the world had stopped. The 5 Saint Kings were extremely eager to smash through the seal. They used Saint Tier battle skills right from the start. They could use Saint Tier battle skills at will as Saint Kings, completely charging them up in a single moment. An extremely powerful sword chi erupted from the sword in Changyang Qing Yun's hand, striking the seal as sword 100 meters long. Changyang Qing Juri did not use his saint weapon. He cleanly struck out with his palm, condensing a palm of several dozen meters in length as it struck the world gate. Extremely powerful wind-attributed saint force permeated Changyang Qing Yunfeng's surroundings before turning into a whirlwind that wrapped around him. The whirlwind rapidly spun as it reached for the sky, connecting to the very top of the miniature world. It caused the frozen energy of the world to wildly churn. Afterward, he swung out with both arms as the whirlwind immediately surged toward the world gate, causing the surrounding space to distort violently. A 3-meter-wide fireball hovered above Changyang Yuan Wuji. It shone brightly like the sun as its terrifying heat pervaded the miniature world, causing the temperature to rapidly skyrocket. Afterward, it immediately shot out as a red streak of light when Changyang Yuan Wuji's hand waved his hand toward the world gate. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua also produced an extremely powerful sword chi that he sent at the world gate. Wherever it passed by, ripples would cascade through space. 5 Saint Kings had used Saint Tier battle skills in unison. The disturbance was so great that it was enough to destroy the surroundings. Even the space of the miniature world, which was much tougher than outside, found it rather difficult to endure. The figures of 18 divine halls had already appeared in the sky, stabilizing the space. Outside the world gate, over 20 Saint Kings hovered sternly in the sky with the Grand Elder of Mercenary City at the front. All of them gazed at the invisible seal before them. Those 3 magical beasts sure are skillful. The seal they've cast here is actually so powerful. It hasn't broken after 3 combined attacks from us. The Grand Elder could not help but praise them. He felt much admiration for Ruijin, Honglian and Heiyu. Afterward, he glanced at the surrounding Saint Kings and loudly said, "Everyone, the seal is far stronger than any one of us have imagined. Everyone has to use our full strength to smash through the seal together. All right, let's all prepare before attacking together on the Grand Elder's signal." A Saint King from a Protector clan called out. Great Elder Tianjian of Mercenary City had now become a Saint Emperor, and they also had the protection of the Barrier Spirit, which was a Returnance expert. They were so powerful that all the Protector clans were now left in the dust. This also made Mercenary City the leaders of the entire continent, in some certain sense, the evident representatives. Within the miniature world, the Saint Tier battle skills collided with the seal almost at the same time, which immediately caused it to violently shake. However, it was still not enough to smash through it. At this moment, the experts outside the world gate used their powerful attacks as well. The strike was clearly much more powerful than the 5 Saint Tier battle skills. Ruijin's seal finally caved in after resisting so many powerful attacks, collapsing instantly. The Changyang clan, which had been sealed up for several months, was finally free. As soon as the seal was broken, the 5 great elders eagerly charged out without even waiting for the rampaging energy to settle. As soon as they arrived outside, they discovered all the Saint Kings floating in the air. They obviously knew that the reason they could have been freed was because of all these Saint Kings. They did not hesitate at all, and immediately clasped their hands in gratitude. The Grand Elder raised his hand and said, "The Protector clans in Mercenary City are just one big family. We all protect the Tianyuan continent silently. It's nothing, so there's no need to thank us." At this moment, Changyang Qingyin seemed to think of something. His gaze immediately grew cold. He clasped his hands at them all and said, "Since so many authoritative members of various organizations have gathered here today, allow me to announce a significant matter to everyone. This matter is so great that it can affect the safety of the entire continent." Chapter 1279. The Heavenly Enchantress Strength 1. Everyone present wavered when they heard that, including the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. All of them could not help but think of the world of Forsaken Saints. Did Changyang Qingyin learn about the world of Forsaken Saints before us? An independent Saint King thought. Changyang Qingyin paused slightly. He became extremely stern and said, "I believe everyone still remembers the war god who invaded our continent and slayed many of our experts in ancient times, right? Now the war god of the 100 races has reappeared. If he successfully matures, it will definitely lead to a bloody storm on the Tianyuan continent. The war god is currently with Jianchen. We need to kill the war god before he fully matures, or we'll be in for another disaster." Everyone became shocked by this information other than the Grand Elder. The war god of the 100 races was one of the 4 existences that had surpassed Saint Emperor in ancient times. He had once been a terrifying nightmare for the humans, and the 10 Protector clans could not stop him even after using everything they had. If Mo Tianyuan had not appeared out of nowhere in that final moment and repelled him, the Tianyuan continent probably would have ended up in the hands of the 100 races. The reappearance of the war god was just far too astounding to everyone. Only the Grand Elder remained as usual. He chuckled like it was nothing. Fantastic, utterly fantastic. The war god of the 100 races sure has come at the right time. Now that our continent is facing devastating danger and are in need of power, the war god reappears. That's like giving us exactly what we need. The Grand Elder is extremely correct. Not only has the war god reappeared, even the winged tiger god has been born again. If they both mature successfully, they will become Origin Realm experts. They'll be the peak powers of our world, said the ancestral emperor of the Felicity Empire. The great elders became stunned when they processed what the ancestral emperor had said. They were completely at a loss. They glanced past the Saint Kings that had saved them with an odd expression. Not only did they fail to discover any grimness, quite a few of them were even rejoicing. In ancient times, the war god Ergens created an irreconcilable hatred between him and the humans and magical beasts. The Tianyuan continent had almost fallen into the hands of the 100 races. Now that the war god had reappeared, he would soon surpass the level of Saint Emperor. Not only did these Saint Kings do nothing after learning about the war god, they celebrated instead. This immediately made the 5 great elders wonder whether they were still on the Tianyuan continent or not, and if the Saint Kings before them were humans or not. This was because the only people who would celebrate after hearing that the war god had returned would be the 100 races to the 5 of them. Changyang Qingyin, since you've been freed, please come to Mercenary City with us. Something significant has happened on the continent. Mercenary City has already invited the other Protector clans and Saint Kings scattered across the continent to gather there. Even a few overseas human experts have been invited to come as well, the Grand Elder said sternly. Something significant has happened? Have you all learned that the war god has reappeared long ago, and that we're gathering all the experts to deal with him? Changyang Qingyin asked in doubt. To him, nothing was more important than the reappearance of the war god. However, what he did not understand was why the Saint Kings rejoiced when he mentioned the war god before. He could not understand no matter how hard he thought. The Grand Elder's stern expression immediately melted away because of what Changyang Qingyin had said. He shook his head with a forced smile. If it was before, the reappearance of the war god would obviously have been an extremely great matter. But it's different now. The seal beneath Mercenary City has been destroyed. The experts of the world of Forsaken Saints can invade the Tianyuan continent at any moment. We just happen to be in need of power, and the war god has suddenly appeared in these times of need. It's obviously something fantastic to all of us. What? The world of Forsaken Saints? Was Grand Elder Tianjian telling the truth all those years ago? Changyang Yuan Wuji immediately became surprised and asked in disbelief. The four other great elders revealed different expressions because of this news as well. They looked at each other as shock filled the depths of their eyes. They had once heard about the seal beneath Mercenary City from Tianjian, but they thought it was a story that was exaggerated and unrealistic, so none of them believed it. Was that matter true? They all thought inside. They could already sense a vague answer to that question, after seeing how the Saint Kings present all beamed when they announced that the war god had returned. Everyone, time is tight. Please come to Mercenary City right now, and then we can discuss the important matters. The Grand Elder invited them once again. Without saying anything more, he ripped open a space gate and left. The Saint Kings that had come with him all ripped open space gates as well, and left through them. Seeing how everyone had left, the five great elders pondered a little before hurriedly passing over some matters to their clansmen. They then closed the world gate and ripped open space gates, hurrying to Mercenary City together. When they arrived in Mercenary City, they discovered with a glance that the city had been reduced to rubble. Their hearts immediately sank inside. They had never thought that such great changes would have occurred on the Tianyuan continent. In the few months they had been trapped in the miniature world. The five great elders were all invited into the miniature world of Mercenary City. The Saint Kings gathered there had increased. Mercenary City had already invited the Saint Kings of the 10 protector clans, 3 great empires, and various ancient clans. Even the overseas human Saint Kings had hurried over. All the Saint Kings there were rather heavy-hearted, causing the atmosphere of the room to become rather heavy as well. The matter of the world of Forsaken Saints pressed against their chests like a boulder, making breathing difficult. The 5 great elders from the protector Changyang clan discovered Changyang Zhu Xiao and Changyang Zhu Yin Xiao on the ground, and they became absolutely furious. However, they understood that the circumstances were not suitable to resolve the conflicts of their clan right now. At the same time, their disagreements with the Zhu branch over the saint's fruit was not a pretty matter. Changyang Qingyan obviously did not wish for the matter to be spread beyond the clan, so he just ended up closing his eyes, treating the two of them as if they did not exist. At this moment, a gentle, pleasant, and almost divine note suddenly rang out from outside. The zither note seemed to possess endless amounts of charm with a mysterious power. All the heavy-hearted Saint Kings relaxed after hearing the music. The note had removed all the worries and negative emotions from the minds of the Saint Kings, allowing them to return to their usual mood. In the blink of an eye, the heavy atmosphere of the room vanished. It had been replaced by a light, enthusiastic atmosphere. All the Saint Kings present were greatly shocked when they sensed the changes in their emotions. They turned their eyes to the entrance of the room and saw an elegant, veiled woman in a purple dress walking in gently and carrying a zither. The woman did not give off any presence, as if she had never cultivated before. However, the presence she gave off was divine, noble, and otherworldly, as if she was a goddess. Her eyes were bright and bewitching. Although her appearance was obscured, her beauty was rather evident from her limpid eyes. What a beauty! Why have I never heard of this woman? At this moment many Saint Kings sighed inside. At the same time, they thought the same thing. There were actually barely any of them who knew about this woman. Weird. She obviously didn't touch the strings, but I can feel that the note clearly originated from her. Just where did it come from? How did she produce a note without using her hands or touching the strings of the zither? A Saint King was filled with curiosity. He could not think of an explanation no matter what. Even with his experiences and knowledge, he could not explain what had just happened. It's actually Haowu's daughter, known as the Heavenly Enchantress. I never thought that her way of the zither would have reached such a profound level. where it can actually affect the minds of Saint Kings. This is unbelievable, an old man in luxurious robes thought. However, he then secretly sighed as gloominess filled his face. The old man was the ancestor of the Tsar family in the City of God, as well as Tsar Tsayun's great-grandfather, Tsar Vamos. The heavenly enchantress walked into the room steadily as she carried her zither. She did not look at the surrounding Saint Kings at all, only fixing her gaze on the elders of Mercenary City. She lowered her head slightly and gently said, "I've come to participate in the gathering from the invitation. I greet the elders of Mercenary City." It was not difficult to hear that her voice carried some respect for the elders of Mercenary City. Haha, I never thought that Shangguan Muir would come to Mercenary City so quickly. I had thought that it would take you a few days. What surprised me even more is that your comprehension of the way of the zither has reached an unfathomable level after a few decades of not seeing you, which has deeply shocked all of us. The Grand Elder smiled. It's you. As soon as the Grand Elder finished speaking, a high-pitched voice rang out. With Changyang Qingyin at the front, all 5 great elders stood up as they glared at the heavenly enchantress. They were furious. Yes, it's her. She was the one who secretly used her music to make the clansmen fall into a slumber, preventing us from using the origin formation successfully. Otherwise, how could we have been sealed up by those magical beasts? Changyang Qingjuri furiously cried out. Although you hid yourself and we never saw your appearance, your zither music has given you away. On the entire continent, there is no one else who has achieved such accomplishments in music other than you, Changyang Yuan Zhenhua said through gritted teeth. When they had been sealed, it was all because of the heavenly enchantress. If she had not secretly interfered, Rui Jin and Hong Lian would not have been enough to seal the Changyang clan. Chapter 1280. The Heavenly Enchantress' Strength 2. All the Saint Kings were secretly shocked by what the great elders from the Changyang clan had said. Drastic changes occurred to their opinions of the Heavenly Enchantress, and some of them even felt extremely fearful of her. Although they did not know her exact strength right now, she was actually bold enough to even provoke a protector clan. At the same time, they could tell from what the great elders had said that she was directly connected to the sealing of the Changyang clan. That was not something an ordinary person would or could do. The few authoritative Saint Kings of mercenary cities all became doubtful. Some of them knew the Heavenly Enchantress extremely well, but she never would have been able to do something like that with their prior understanding, to influence a powerful protector clan. Changyang Qingyin, what has exactly happened? Were there some misunderstandings between you and Shangguan Muir? The Grand Elder asked in doubt. He refused to believe that the Heavenly Enchantress possessed the power to shake an entire protector clan. Perhaps due to the fact that the Heavenly Enchantress walked a unique path of cultivation, none of them could see through her strength. She kept her presence erased as well, which made it even more impossible. This was why the elders still believed that the Heavenly Enchantress was a saint ruler. Changyang Qingyin stared at her with a darkened expression and said through gritted teeth, "So your name is Shangguan Muir?" He then turned to the Grand Elder and said with a apple face, "The traitor Jian Shen and the 2 magical beasts attacked our Changyang clan back then and used a secret technique in an attempt to seal our world gate. They wanted to trap us all in the miniature world, but we're still a protector clan that has existed for over 1,000,000 years. Our heritage is so powerful that even when the 2 of them possess strength equal to Saint Emperors, sealing our clan was just wishful thinking." Many Saint Kings secretly nodded. All these people understood just how powerful the protector clans on the continent were. Although they did not possess any Saint Emperors in this current age, their heritage still existed. Even Saint Emperors could not abuse them. Sealing a protector clan probably could only be achieved when several Saint Emperors worked together. So just 2 great perfection Saint King magical beasts with origin weapons and armor obviously would not have been enough. Changyang Zhu Xiao, Changyang Zuyin Xiao, and the other protector clans that had gathered here listened with all their attention. All of them knew that the heritage of all 10 protector clans was basically the same. They all had an extraordinary emperor armament, 18 divine halls, and all had an origin formation that could claim the lives of saint emperors. With such a great heritage, even if the Protector clan could not go on the offensive against two saint emperors, they could still defend. Sealing them was virtually impossible, because sealing a Protector clan was far more difficult than attack one. As a result, they were all extremely curious as to how the magical beasts managed to seal up the Changyang clan. Changyang Qingyin continued. Afterward, our clan used our origin formation. It's powerful, but it needs to be charged up. Just as all the experts of the clan were charging it up, a zither note suddenly appeared that could attack the souls of people. It knocked all the people in the clan unconscious, other than us Saint Kings, in a short moment. The activation of the formation failed, and coupled with the fact that the 5 of us were exhausted, the magical beasts used this opportunity to seal us up. What did you say? That zither note knocked everyone unconscious, including saint rulers? A saint king from another Protector clan asked in doubt. Changyang Qingyin sternly nodded. Correct. The zither note possessed an extremely powerful soul attack, such that only saint kings could resist it. Everyone gasped. This was definitely unmatched, music possessing such wondrous effects. The Grand Elder asked the heavenly enchantress, Shangguan Mu'er, "Is that all true? Did you really interfere secretly?" The Saint Kings of Mercenary City still found it difficult to believe, because the heavenly enchantress never had such an ability from what they remembered. Her achievements in the zither were indeed extremely great, but they could not believe that she powerful enough that 9th heavenly layer saint rulers could not resist. The heavenly enchantress nodded slightly and admitted to what she had done. She looked at the 5 great elders and said, "Are only Protector clans allowed to abuse people on the continent, and no one else is allowed to do the same back? If you want revenge, come at me." What an ignorant girl. Do you really think that you are invincible on the continent just because you know some soul attacks? Allow me to witness your way of the zither today. Changyang Qingyin immediately bellowed in fury. Changyang Qingyin, Shangguan Mu'er, our continent is currently facing an even greater threat. It's not time for us to fight with each other. It'll only weaken our own strength. The Grand Elder of Mercenary City tried to persuade them. He wanted to stop this battle. Changyang Qingyin was already a saint king at great perfection. He did not believe that the heavenly enchantress was his opponent. Changyang Qingyin smiled hideously. He had already made up his mind to teach the heavenly enchantress a proper lesson. He opened his mouth, and just as he was about to tell the Grand Elder that he would not threaten the heavenly enchantress' life, he was cut off by her. "Don't worry, Grand Elder. I know how far to go. I will not threaten his life." Although the heavenly enchantress' voice was cold, it was filled with confidence. Changyang Qingyin's face hardened as his pale face immediately became filled with fury. That was what he wanted to say originally, but he had never thought that the heavenly enchantress would speak such bold words instead. Changyang Qingyin immediately became utterly furious when he thought about the fact that he, a mighty saint king at great perfection, was being looked down upon by a young girl. All the saint kings present hardened their faces as well. They looked at the heavenly enchantress with strange gazes, as many of them thought. Does she think she is a saint emperor to take a saint king at great perfection so lightly? Even if her achievements in the way of the zither are so great that she can easily incapacitate saint rulers, the souls of saint kings at great perfection are not comparable. The heavenly enchantress and Changyang Qingyin immediately left the miniature world. After what had happened, all the saint kings who had gathered to talk about the world of forsaken saints paused the meeting and went out to watch. This would be an extremely unique battle, since it involved the heavenly enchantress, who was skilled with soul attacks, and was fighting against a saint king at great perfection. Everyone was interested. There was rarely anyone on the continent who could use soul attacks. Among the peak experts, there was only the Path Lord of Carnal Desires, but what he was skilled in was very different from the heavenly enchantress way of the zither. As a result, the people of the continent did not know a lot about this avenue of attack, so they wanted to take advantage of the battle to increase their knowledge. 100 kilometers from Mercenary City, the heavenly enchantress hovered in the air with her zither. None of her energy leaked from her body, so she seemed just like an ordinary person. However, the space around her would ripple in an undetectable fashion. In front of her hovered Changyang Qingyan. He held a thin sword, which shone with cold light. Energy surged from him and caused the space around him to distort slightly. Several hundred Saint Kings gathered around them to watch. All of them hovered 10 kilometers away and watched with great attention. "Today, I'll make you pay the price for your arrogance," Changyang Qingyun coldly said before a tremor passed through his sword. With a crisp resonance, he produced a 10-meter-long sword chi that shot toward the heavenly enchantress. The sword chi moved as a streak of light. Wherever it passed, an evident black crack would be left behind. The heavenly enchantress stood unmoving like a mountain. She gently rested her fingers on the zither strings and casually struck a note. Ding! With a crisp sound, a visible sound wave shot out from the zither, headed toward the powerful sword chi that Changyang Qingyan had produced. With a boom, the simple-looking sound wave struck the 10-meter-wide sword chi. It actually dispersed the shocking sword chi before continuing toward Changyang Qingyan without weakening at all. Changyang Qingyan suddenly narrowed his eyes, but the sword wave moved just far too quickly. It arrived before him in the blink of an eye. Changyang Qingyan stabbed out without thinking. He used 80% of his strength in the attack. The sword struck the sound wave, and with a bang, the violent energy ripped open the surrounding space, reducing it to darkness. The sound wave was dispersed by Changyang Qingyan's attack, but Changyang Qingyan did not lighten up either. A single sound wave had forced him to use 80% of his strength. The heavenly enchantress' strength had completely exceeded anything he had imagined. "Let's see if you can block my Saint Tier battle skill," Changyang Qingyan called out, and immediately decided to use a Saint Tier battle skill. He wanted to finish the battle as soon as possible. "Unfortunately, you've run out of time to cast it," replied the heavenly enchantress coldly before striking a string again, producing a clear note. The music seemed divine to spectating Saint Kings. Even though it was a single note, it was still enough to enchant them. However, the note seemed like thunder had just exploded in Changyang Qingyan's head, causing him to quiver and almost fall out of the sky. The casting time of the Saint Tier battle skill was also disrupted. Changyang Qingyan felt like the note was a huge hammer that heavily struck his soul. It caused his head to lighten as his consciousness blurred, as if his soul was about to shatter. The heavenly enchantress struck another string, and another visible sound wave shot out. Before Changyang Qingyan could recover, it passed through the left side of his chest and instantly shattered his heart. Changyang Qingyan grunted and spat out a mouthful of blood. His blurring consciousness gradually returned to him, and he immediately discovered that his heart had been destroyed. He paled instantly. "If I wanted to kill you, you'd be dead already." The heavenly enchantress returned her zither to her hands as she coldly stared at Changyang Qingyan. Changyang Qingyan became stunned and gloomy. He knew that the heavenly enchantress was right. If she really wanted to kill him, the sound wave only needed to target his soul instead of his heart, and he would definitely be dead. What made it difficult for him to accept was that he, a mighty Saint King at great perfection, had actually been defeated so easily. He did not even have the power to counterattack the heavenly enchantress. There was no out time to cast his Saint Tier battle skills, or any secret techniques. "Impossible, this is impossible," Changyang Qingyan mumbled. He refused to accept this as reality. The several hundred Saint Kings looked at each other in the distance. Disbelief was plastered across all their faces. The outcome was just far too surprising. A great elder of a protector clan, a Saint King at great perfection, was actually this weak before the heavenly enchantress. What is her strength? Is she a Saint King at great perfection? Or is she a Saint Emperor? Changyang Zuxiao stared blankly as shock filled his eyes. Tsar Vamos also became tongue-tied at what had just happened, unable to return to his senses after quite some time. Only after quite a long time did he sigh at the sky. He thought, how was powerful enough? I never thought that his daughter would be even more terrifying than him. To be able to defeat a Saint King at great perfection so easily. Has his daughter already become a Saint Emperor? Is this really Shangguan Mua? After a few decades, how has she become so powerful? If it were me instead, I would not be anywhere close to her opponent. The Grand Elder was also shocked by this. Even the elders beside him were the same. They all stared blankly at the heavenly enchantress, remaining speechless for quite a long while. If Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu were present at this moment, they would definitely discover that the heavenly enchantress had become much more powerful compared to when she had assisted them with sealing the Protector Chongyang clan. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.